Health and the environment is $7,065,354.50. $1,677,973.80 was provided for the refurbishment of 21 health centers on the island. We all know how important, Madam Speaker, proper waste disposal is, especially in a post-disaster situation. Thus, a total sum of $5,387,452.36 was made available to the Dominica Solid Waste Management Corporation. Of this, $3,404,272.36 was made available to assist the corporation in meeting its operational expenses. A further $300,000 was provided to meet the payment of taxes and fees on the importation of 2 Ford cargo garbage trucks. Madam Speaker, there is a significant amount of galvanized and other metals which now need to be properly disposed of. In light of this, $1,683,108.34 was provided to the Dominica Solid Waste Management Corporation for the payment of a deposit to Caribbean Engineering Construction, Inc. for compacting of scrap metal. We will require the corporation, Madam Speaker, of all citizens on this project. Your role will be to ensure that once the project starts, all the galvanized and other metals which are in your area, in the bushes, in the valleys and drains, should be collected and placed where they can be collected by the contractors. Madam Speaker, $46,467 was appropriated to the Ministry of Tourism and Culture to meet expenses related to the operations of the Kalinago-Barana OT. An amount of $153,581.17 was made available to the Ministry of Kalinago Affairs for payment of salaries and allowances to staff. In the Ministry of Youth, Sports and Constituency Empowerment, $100,503.52 was made available to cover personnel emoluments in favor of officers engaged under the Constituency Empowerment Program. Madam Speaker, $54,392 was appropriated to the Ministry of Commerce, Enterprise, and Small Business Development. The building which housed the physical planning unit was severely damaged during Hurricane Maria. A new home had to be found for this unit. Therefore, Madam Speaker, an amount of $85,807.77 was appropriated on behalf of the Ministry of Planning and Economic Development to meet rent payments for office accommodation. Madam Speaker, an amount of $3,829,297.33 was appropriated to the Establishment and Personnel Department. Of this amount, $855,000 was required to meet payment of non-salaried benefits to the Police Welfare Association, the Dominica Public Service Union, and the Dominica Association of Teachers, based on the signed collective bargaining agreement. $168,737.30 was used for the payment for a new firewall for the Government of Dominica email new security system. An amount of $2,805,560.13 was required as additional funds to meet payment of telecommunication services for the remainder of financial year 2017-2018. Madam Speaker, $69,777,918.47 was appropriated to the Ministry of Public Works, Water Resource Management, and Ports as follows. An amount of $887,156 was required to meet counterpart contribution under the EDF Disaster Remedial and Mitigation Infrastructure Project, Wadiab to White River. $20,908,105 was required for payments in response of Hurricane Maria cleanup and restoration. $13,071,354 was required to meet commitments for road maintenance works, community empowerment and beautification program. $462,305 was needed to meet a shortfall in the amount budgeted for contractual obligations under the wing wall reconstruction to Melville Hall Bridge project. $28,908,025 was required for dredging of rivers. $164,000. Madam Speaker, I dare say, had it not been for the comprehensive dredging program under Ticomedi's government after Hurricane Maria, we would have been underwater after Tropical Storm Isaac. $164,927 was required to meet contractual obligations for emergency road works at Cabanis. Under the BAM Feeder Road project, $5,376,046.47 in expenditure were incurred via direct payments by the funding agency to contractors and consultants. The appropriation was required to record the disbursements. Madam Speaker, $938,097.79 was appropriated to the Ministry of Foreign and Caricom Affairs. Given our country's diplomatic ties to the People's Republic of China, the government saw it necessary to re-establish an embassy in that country. Therefore, an amount of $401,842.05 was required to meet operational and other related expenses in respect of this new embassy. Additionally, an amount of $381,349.74 was required to meet sundry expenses in favor of the resident ambassador of the Commonwealth of Dominica to the People's Republic of China. The remaining $154,906 was used to purchase a new protocol vehicle. This was facilitated through the insurance compensation for vehicle damage during the passage of Hurricane Maria. Madam Speaker, a total of $545,474.66 was appropriated to the Cabinet Office. $18,917 was required to meet expenses for the official funeral of the late Osborne Revere, while $526,557.60 was required to meet payment of salaries to persons engaged under the Special Employment Program. Madam Speaker, these are not normal times. The last 6 months of the last fiscal year, 2007-2018, was largely a continuation of government's efforts to respond quickly to the needs of the population post-Hurricane Maria. We are satisfied that we have made great progress, but we are also fully aware that the task is not yet done. I continue to encourage all Dominicans to contribute to the recovery process. As we go through yet another hurricane season, we pray that the good Lord will continue to protect us from the ravages of any storms. Madam Speaker, I submit these supplementary estimates to the House for its consideration. I thank you.
Did we have a seconder? Did we have a seconder?
Speak.
It has been, no, sorry, the motion is before the House for debate.
Madam Speaker, thank you very much. Madam Speaker, I rise to make my contribution on the schedule of supplementary estimates for January 2018 to June 2018. But Madam Speaker, I want to direct us to an item, I think two items which appear to be out of sync on this thing in terms of the project description and the explanation. If we look at T50 at the back, the final page, we have an item of that's establishment department, purchase of plant and equipment, and in the explanation we have to meet payment of non-salaried benefits to the PWA, the PSU, DPSU, and DAT based on signed collective bargaining agreements for the triennium period. Also, the second item other machinery and equipment represents payment for a new firewall for the government of Dominica new security system. That, Madam Speaker, could be machinery and equipment, but the first one, definitely, I think there is a problem in that. So, Minister of Finance, you could look at the item if you have a further explanation to give us. So, I think I'll need any more clarification to go through these things, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, at this juncture in our country's rebuilding post-barrier, we expect that there will be supplementary estimates. We do expect that from government. We also expect to, Madam Speaker, that we need to have more data collection so that we can analyze information as to the expenses that are going on and to keep ourselves up to date in what changes that need to be done to ensure that the resilience that we speak about, we are getting back the benefits, and we know what changes to do to ensure that we are doing things in a sustainable Madam Speaker. We need to also consider that there is always the need for consultation on information gathered and to share that information, because those days our human resources are stretched and one person's idea within a cabinet may not be all that is necessary. You need all the opposition members in, and we are there on the United Workers' Party side, willing to contribute to move that system forward, Madam Speaker. So, Madam Speaker, forward planning is important. Checks and monitoring, and I'm talking about regular checks and monitoring within all the institutions who are concerned with this supplementary schedule of estimates, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, it concerns me seriously that this schedule of supplementary estimate does not include the agricultural sector, Madam Speaker. Nothing on agricultural sector. With a country that we speak about where we should produce our food, and right now with climate change, we talk about being the first resilient country, and we're not even thinking about feeding our people. I mean, what are we talking about with food security and agriculture and those things? I don't know why this item has not been taken seriously on the schedule of supplementary estimates for that period, Madam Speaker. So I will put the question there. Why isn't there an item for that? Madam Speaker, housing. There's an item for housing for bulk purchase materials, Madam Speaker. And we already hear, and that item is on the, it's about $17 million, if I recall clearly, Madam Speaker. I will remain concerned, very much concerned, Madam Speaker, with the Procurement Act, how we source, how we use that act, how we source materials. And I mean, this rebuilding process encourages us to use the Procurement Act in all aspects. This is the litmus test for it, Madam Speaker. And I want to encourage us as government, as people, as administrators, to go and let's start doing something that we actually passed in our parliament and say, yes, this is our own and it can work. Let's not have too many excuses, Madam Speaker. So I would want us to really go and make sure that we tender those things. Let's get value for money. When suppliers give us a quote, we should not be only taking one quote. We want to know various quotes and the quality of the materials, the quality of the goods. That is important in building back resiliently, Madam Speaker. You cannot be taking things because of price. You may better off paying a higher price for a better quality material. So, in terms of the housing, I have a serious concern on that, Madam Speaker. The mass expenses done in the housing sector also, the tracking of the expenses with real work on the ground. Because come next supplementary estimate, Madam Speaker, what are we going to see? Are we going to see more millions being spent, and we are not seeing the realities of persons moving in, and we're writing off people, we're crossing them off, checking them? Have something systematic in the community that is trickled upwards to the policymakers to say, well, yes, we can tick off how many houses are being done. Madam Speaker, tying this expenditure with education is important. The education that we see we lack now, unfortunately, we did not prepare our country and our resources for the country. And our education shows us, our education system now shows us that it has failed. Because during a time of this disaster, we do not have many technical persons who are kicked in and who have the capacity to assist in that rebuilding effort. I want to suggest, Madam Speaker, that the National Employment Program have an apprenticeship arm that can target young persons to learn the trades of construction, the allied trades in the industry in terms of plumbing, in terms of painting, masonry, electrical. And Madam Speaker, we need to beef up the State College and bring them on board and partner them in this process, Madam Speaker. We need to see something bigger in education during these times of spending all these monies, Madam Speaker. Because if we don't take care of this generation now, later on, we, the elder generation going on, we will not have any proper guarantee that we will be taken care of. So let us plant some seeds in our education system. Look for areas as we're rebuilding that can connect with all this expenditure, Madam Speaker. This is money already spent. So that this is nothing to say that I am not going to support it. I am supporting it, Madam Speaker. But I want to see some benefit coming out from it for the people of the country, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, under D33, I think that was the installation of water tanks at schools and so, Madam Speaker. Dominica is a country that we say is nature island. We claim it to be nature island. And we claim to have 365 rivers. And water seems to be a critical issue every time we have a disaster. I would like to ask this Parliament for us to consider something. Stop looking at the rivers as the source of water. Let us look at the rain as the source of water, because even too much rain now is a problem for us. Water management needs to be taken on board very seriously, and we need to look at water management not just by putting a few water tanks for the schools alone, but we need to look at even our building codes now to ensure that private homes, public buildings, commercial buildings, that we have systems designed in the foundation to be able to harvest the rainwater that falls from the roof. That will also reduce on the surface runoff water that goes down to the streams and cause a lot of disaster as well. We want to ensure in that water management system that all public buildings, hospitals, health centers, the police stations, the other schools, the primary schools, the secondary schools, they have adequate storage supplies for a minimum number of days that can take us through. And remember, I said that we have to forget the river as the source of the water. The rain will still fall while the intakes are damaged, and DOWASCO has to repair. So while the rain is falling, let's do a project that we can harvest that rainwater and be good at it. There are countries that are doing it very well, Madam Speaker. There are countries that have no problem with water. St. Thomas, St. Croix, the USVI, and they use that simple technique, and we rely on the water from the rivers alone. We also need to look at the geology and the terrain of our country, because most of the water that we see in the rivers are surface runoff. In the Pocasset area and in other areas, we have a lot of water wells which we can tap, and we need to improve our water storage in mass numbers. We need to start thinking big. Stop talking about millions, and we're not thinking big to have adequate water storage, Madam Speaker. We need to have 500,000 gallon tank water storage, 1 million tank water storage, instead of saying we build $2 million project like my good friend, the Honorable Minister, or the Honorable Deputy Prime Minister. We need to have large storage of water. And we can get that in the Pocasset area, and we can use gravity to really distribute those waters to Warner, to Maho, to Kenfield area, to the higher populated areas in the community, Madam Speaker. So I take it to say that while we are rebuilding and we're in that process, we need to be tracking some real things happening. We want to see real things happening. And if we look at the Warner lands are expansive lands for development, and the storage tanks built there are already too small. Once again, we have to be pumping from the Jimmy storage tank up to Warner and then sending it back by gravity. So let us think better and develop a policy for water management in a more serious way, Madam Speaker. I'm not even going to talk about the export component. This, I guess, will come further. Madam Speaker, yes, I'll leave that for you to do. Madam Speaker, on the matter of the dredging of the rivers, I think $29 million spent on the dredging of the rivers, Madam Speaker. But this is another disaster that was sent, but there is potential in bringing something out of it, more than we can see, if we plan well in how we dredge the rivers. And the ecosystem that exists in the rivers, Madam Speaker, we have to be careful how we do it, because right now, the manner in which we are dredging a lot of the rivers up to a certain distance upstream is dangerous to the ecosystem, because we have higher velocity of water going down, so we take them down to, we get the habitats, really, we actually destroy the habitats. So the idea of having the basins, the turbulence of the water, this is no longer there anymore. We need to look at the silt that while dredging and selecting those materials that we can use and bring back in greenhouses and back to the farms, stockpile them somewhere. We also need to look at land reclamation with some of this material, which I see some is going on down in Kenfield. Even the use of those boulders for rock armor and other projects, we can stockpile them. They won't rot. They will stay there for our use. We also, importantly, can use a lot of this material in crushers for our concrete homes that we have decided to build in a resilient manner and for roads. We have to think of that seriously. It's time we start generating some project from all this cleaning up and expenditure matters, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, the recovery plan post-Maria, Madam Speaker, I know for sure at this moment we're still into recovery from Erika as well. And Madam Speaker, the reports that we are getting out there, and I'm getting out there, it shows that part of the contribution which I made concerning procurement is important. Part of the relief effort sharing and the allocation of housing is important, Madam Speaker. It shows that some persons still complain that they didn't get, or they want more or something. And what that tells me is that the system that is in place needs to be upgraded. The tracking system needs to be upgraded. So if we have to develop our own local management-based system for implementing all these projects in every community, we should do it, Madam Speaker, because this thing gonna be, that development process will be inherited by the next government, Madam Speaker. And that next government, the United Workers' Party, will be solving the problem, Madam Speaker. And thank you for my presentation on this supplementary debate, Madam Speaker.
No. Madam Speaker, members of this Honorable House, 1 year, Madam Speaker, post-Hurricane Maria, we see this Labour Party government coming to this House with a supplementary appropriation, Madam Speaker. And Madam Speaker, the fact is that all of these monies have already been spent. So really and truly, we should be out there continuing the work of the people. But Madam Speaker, it is important that the people understand how these monies have been spent and the purposes for spending these monies, Madam Speaker. When I sit here, Madam Speaker, and I listen to the Senator who just spoke, Senator Thomas, clearly it shows, Madam Speaker, that the opposition, they are not in tune with the realities post-Hurricane Maria. And that is rather shameful. Because for the Senator to stand in this Parliament, Madam Speaker, Mr. Speaker, and to give the impression that the government of Dominica has not spent monies in education is indeed a travesty, Madam Speaker. Because here you can see that this Labour Party government, Mr. Speaker, in trying times, post-Hurricane Maria, trying times, Mr. Speaker, we've spent an amount of over $3 million to ensure that our students who are at universities across the world continue to receive the assistance that they need to continue on their journey, Mr. Speaker. And the Senator has the audacity to say that we have not invested in education.
Mr. Speaker,
I am not too sure, Mr. Speaker, if he... You can sit, take your seat, take your seat, take your seat. I am not too sure, Mr. Speaker. I am not too sure, Mr. Speaker, if the Senator is blind.
Mr. Speaker,
what are you standing
I
on?
spoke about no money allocated.
What are you standing on? What are you standing on?
On clarification, Madam Speaker. Mr. Speaker.
Your mic, Mr. Speaker. Your mic.
If you have a point of order, then he will yield. But
Well,
if
it's a
he
point
doesn't
of
choose
order
to yield,
clarification.
but no, I cannot allow you. No,
Remember, it's Mr.
no, I cannot allow you. Do you have a point of order?
Yes, I have a point of order.
Which point of order?
Of correction.
No, not correction. Is it a point of
It's
order?
a point of order. Yes.
Well, tell me the point of order.
The order is that what...
No. Point out the point of order. No. Come on, Senator. Senator.
I don't have to quote what...
Senator,
what's
you know what I would advise? Get one of your other members to respond on your behalf.
I don't have to say, you know?
Mr. Speaker, you see clearly, Mr. Speaker, the truth hurts. And that is why, Mr. Speaker, the people have to know, the Dominican people have to know, that in spite of the challenging times that we went through post-Hurricane Maria, this Labour Party administration has remained committed to the education of our children, Mr. Speaker. And our Prime Minister himself went to several universities to speak to our students, to let them know and to reassure them, Mr. Speaker, that we will continue to provide them with the necessary support that they require, Mr. Speaker. And even here, at the Dominica State College, Senator Thomas, because clearly you're aware of that, we provided the college with over $1 million to ensure that the students with outstanding fees, Mr. Speaker, we could cover all of the outstanding fees at the Dominica State College for our students to stay at school, Mr. Speaker. And really and truly, Mr. Speaker, We could have said that, yes, we have been hit badly by Hurricane Maria, and we don't have the monies. We could have said that. We could have said we have other priorities. But one of the main priorities of this Labour Party administration continues to be education. And that is why, Senator Thomas, we continue to prioritize. And if you had done your research, you would have known, Senator, that the Ministry of Education now has priority areas in place that will ensure that students who pursue tertiary level education, they can now go into critical areas and can come back now to contribute significantly and meaningfully towards the development of our country, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I was taken aback when I sat here and I heard the Senator remark that the monies that we are spending in housing, Mr. Speaker, in housing, we should not spend these monies. And I ask myself, really and truly, does the Senator care about people? Because, Mr. Speaker, we spent over $87 million post-Hurricane Maria in the housing sector to ensure that we can restore the homes of persons whose homes have been destroyed. But does the Senator want people to sleep on grass? Does the Senator, Mr. Speaker, want people to sleep on the streets? As a caring government, we have a responsibility to provide and to address the housing needs, Mr. Speaker, of our Dominican citizens. And we will continue to do so with no apology, Senator Thomas. Because at the end of the day, we have to ensure that every Dominican citizen whose lives have been impacted post-Hurricane Maria, we address their needs. And that is why we are spending these monies in the housing sector, Mr. Speaker, to ensure that strategically we can address the needs of our Dominican citizens post-Hurricane Maria. Mr. Speaker, in all of this, I really want to single out the leadership of the Prime Minister, because we've just passed the first year anniversary of Hurricane Maria. And some of us tend to forget how Dominica was when we woke up on the morning of the 18th, leading into the 19th of September, Mr. Speaker. Many of us forgot the devastation that was caused, the amount of debris that was in this country, the lack of access, lack of communication. We forgot, Mr. Speaker. And sometimes it is important to remind people so they have an understanding as to the amount of work that transpired the days and months leading up after Hurricane Maria, Mr. Speaker. And the leadership of Prime Minister Caricom stood out. Because, Mr. Speaker, if we had a weak leader, Dominica would have fallen. Dominica would have faltered. We would have remained down there. But because of the commitment, the passion, the determination, and the experience of our Prime Minister, we have been able to bounce back post-Hurricane Maria in tremendous and significant ways, Mr. Speaker. And when you traverse this country, you can see the difference. You can see the difference, Mr. Speaker. And rest assured that we will continue to work towards advancing the overall development of this country. Because we understand that developing this country is not an easy task. It is not an easy task. And while some of us are busy working to develop this country, we have some men and women who are loitering and bringing this country down, Mr. Speaker, and this has to stop. Because Dominica has come too far. This country has come too far, Mr. Speaker. And we have to continue to progress this country and to move forward, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, this supplementary appropriation, I have given it my fullest support. And I want to single out a few areas, Mr. Speaker. And the reason why I want to single out a few areas, one is to show, Mr. Speaker, and to inform this Parliament and the Dominican public that the government of Dominica has been able, Mr. Speaker, to use local funds in a number of key areas to keep this economy afloat. And that is critical. Because even post a disaster, when countries have made pledges towards specific projects, but these funds have not been forthcoming, the government, being a responsible and a prudent government, has the ability, Mr. Speaker, to utilize local resources to continue to carry out its duties. And the first thing I want to point out, Mr. Speaker, is that in spite of the challenges, under Head D31, Ministry of Finance, an amount of $28 million, $180,125, Mr. Speaker, was used to pay civil servants bonus pay after Hurricane Maria, Mr. Speaker. This was a commitment that the Dominican Labour Party government made to public officers. And we kept this promise to public officers, Mr. Speaker, in trying times, in difficult times. A government, where again have you seen that, Mr. Speaker? After a disaster like Maria, you would have seen cutbacks. But we kept our promise to public officers, and they received their double bubble, their bonus pay, in spite of the challenges, Mr. Speaker. And this came from local resources. Local resources, Senator, over $28 million. Our commitment to the public officers of this country. And I see Senator Baptiste smiling because he agrees with me that this is a government that is working. He would have stood up and clapped, but probably the little opposition have told him to sit down. So $28 million, Mr. Speaker, and that is important. Additionally, Mr. Speaker, an amount of over $9 million, again, local resources, earmarked for the continuation of the National Employment Program for the period of January 1st to June 30th, 2018. And this shows again, Mr. Speaker, that this Labour Party government is concerned about our people. Because we could have said that Hurricane Maria passed, and the over 2,000 people who are engaged under the National Employment Program, we could have said, let's end the program. But no. But no, Mr. Speaker. This amount that we spent, over $9 million, it shows a commitment, and the commitment of this Labour Party government towards the National Employment Program. A program that started in 2013 and has been highly criticized by the opposition, Mr. Speaker. But yet still, we are in 2018, and we have never faltered on our commitment towards the National Employment Program. And hundreds of Dominicans across this country, Mr. Speaker, they are engaged, and they receive a salary under this National Employment Program, Mr. Speaker. And I rest assured that this Labour Party government will continue to support the National Employment Program. And local resources, Mr. Speaker. Additionally, I must commend our partners, the UNDP, for providing this cash forward program, which assisted in a number of communities being cleaned after Hurricane Maria. And I want to place on public record our thanks to the United Nations Development Program for coming to our aid and assisting us. And in my constituency, the communities of Mero and Layu benefited from that program, the cash forward program. The young people in the community was engaged in cleaning the beach, clearing the drains, getting the debris out of the community. And I really want to commend the UNDP for this program, Mr. Speaker, in this supplementary appropriation. I want to move quickly to the area of housing, because housing has been critical post-Hurricane Maria, Mr. Speaker. And we've seen extensive housing programs across this country, from the re-roofing of homes to the erection of new homes. And Dr. Darrow continues to boast widely and much so the new city that he has received. And it shows, Mr. Speaker, that this Labour Party government has a clear vision as it relates and as it concerns the housing needs of our people. And the monies that we've spent in the housing program post-Hurricane Maria, it shows a commitment. But more so, Mr. Speaker, the majority of these funds, and if you go through the heads clearly, the majority of these funds, except for one item where we had a country from Equitable, has been from the government of Dominica. Local resources, Mr. Speaker. And it goes back to my point earlier, that even if we have received commitments from foreign agencies to assist us, but these funds have not come through as yet. So what should the government do? Sit down and say, we are waiting on them and let our people stay outside there without proper housing? No, Mr. Speaker. We have risen to the task, and we have ensured that in every single constituency, including those of the opposition, Mr. Linton, Marigot, Salisbury, Russell South, and I'm sure the member for Russell South, who has a bright smile on his face, he's very pleased that his constituency was able to receive some housing assistance. Every single constituency, Mr. Speaker, has benefited under the housing program post-Hurricane Maria. So when the opposition talks about this foolishness that the government is not looking at opposition constituencies and we are bypassing people, that is not true. Because here you can see categorically in the supplementary appropriation that we have been able to address the housing needs of our citizens. And this is an ongoing program that will continue, Mr. Speaker. And rest assured that persons who have not yet received assistance, we will be coming to them, Mr. Speaker. And so I fully support the housing funds here, and more specifically, the amounts from our local resources, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I want to also move quickly to the area under the supplementary which deals with grants and contribution under the Ministry of Education. And I highlighted it a bit in my presentation earlier. But I really want to underscore, Mr. Speaker, that this Labour Party government is the government that has invested the most in the education of our children. And that is no secret. The investments that we've made in education, there have been some very heavy investments. And the reason for that, Mr. Speaker, is because education is a powerful tool. It can raise your standard of living. And what I want to encourage our students who have benefited from government assistance is that you have to continue to be thankful and to show gratitude to the government of Dominica. Because the reality is, Mr. Speaker, that there are some things that the government could have set aside post-Hurricane Maria. And the Minister of Education is there, and I'm sure in his presentation he will highlight further and in more specific details the amount of monies that we have spent after Maria in the Education Ministry of Education. Because it shows that our students are a priority for us. And we have not given up on any one of our students, Mr. Speaker. And that is important. And the amounts that we spent, particularly, Mr. Speaker, for the students at the overseas universities, an amount of $3 million here, that is critical. And again, these are from local resources. So, Senator Thomas, this is a working government. This is a caring government. This is a government that knows the best interests of the ordinary man and will continue to support, Mr. Speaker, our Dominican citizens. And Mr. Speaker, I want to also highlight very quickly the amount of $28 million that has been spent on the dredging of rivers throughout this country. This is in fact a significant figure, $28 million. From local resources, again. From local resources, and it's important to underscore that. Because the reality is, if the government did not have access to these funds, all of this could not have taken place. And what we have been able to do, and the senator was speaking about procurement and these things. But you see, sometimes, Mr. Speaker, when you are faced with emergencies, you have to ensure that you address these emergencies in quick time. If someone comes to you and tells you that they're hungry, you can ask the person, why are you hungry? If the person is hungry, the person needs food. And you have to feed the person. And I heard Senator Baptist saying that he was very impressed with the work that the government has done post-Maria. He was blind, but now he can see. Senator Baptist was blind, but now he can see. Because he saw the works that were done to dredge all of these rivers. And he's shaking his head now and agreeing with me. So you can see, Mr. Speaker, that the level of diligence that this government has placed in getting the country back on its feet after Hurricane Maria has not gone unnoticed. And all of these amounts that have been spent in this supplementary appropriation, they have been spent for a good cause. And we make no excuses for spending these monies, because at the end of the day, our Dominican citizens have benefited and will continue to provide them with the needs and ensure, Mr. Speaker, that we address the concerns of our people. And just before I take my seat, I also want to highlight, Mr. Speaker, the monies that have been spent to have the embassy in the People's Republic of China up and running. The People's Republic of China is a very important partner and friend to the government of Dominica. And our ambassador, Mr. Martin Charles, I want to commend him on his appointment publicly. Ambassador Charles, I believe, has been doing a very good job so far in representing the government of Dominica in China, Mr. Speaker. Because we forged that relationship, a relationship based on principle. And we've seen some of the benefits, the tangible benefits, right here in Dominica. And I want to highlight and thank the government of China again for the gift of the York Valley Bridge, a very important bridge in the St. Joseph constituency. That will allow the farmers of the Lehigh Valley area to have proper access to the farms. And Mr. Speaker, the students that we have in China, this year we had another cadre of students going to China. And I want to commend the students from my constituency who are currently in China, studied to better themselves and to come back and make a meaningful contribution to our country, Mr. Speaker. And so, Mr. Speaker, I have no reservations in supporting this supplementary appropriation for the period January 2018 to June 2018, Mr. Speaker. Thank you very much.
Mr. Speaker, I rise to give my full and unwavering support to this motion now before the Honorable House, Supplementary Estimates from January to June 2018. And Mr. Speaker, I believe that the track record of this government over the past 18 years is beyond question. What is most outstanding to me in these supplementary estimates is the ability of this government, in spite all odds, in the face of every challenge, to overcome and to ensure that it can deliver for the people of Dominica. In our darkest hour, this government, this Labour Party administration, stands out as the shining light, a beacon of hope to the Caribbean and to the world as well, Mr. Speaker. And we see that very clearly for the allocation of the sum of $9 million to the Ministry of Trade to continue our national employment program. Mr. Speaker, I am sure we can all understand what it was like for parents, young professionals, after the passage of Hurricane Maria, to be without a form of employment or livelihood. And that will always be a critical need, no matter what situation exists around us. And I'm sure that many of the people who were at the time engaged under the NEP, on the 19th of September 2018, their future was in question. Their livelihood was in doubt. And was it not for the strength and fortitude of our Prime Minister and his cabinet, the NEP could have been discontinued, as our honorable member for St. Joseph, Palrep of St. Joseph just mentioned. But thanks to the vision and the commitment of our Prime Minister, we were able to keep the NEP going. And as a resident of the Roseau South, Mr. Speaker, I can say to you, I am grateful for this, because we have seen post-Maria the numbers of people engaged, young and senior individuals engaged under the NEP in the Roseau South, continues to increase. And I stand to be corrected, but I believe that the number is in excess of 250 at this time, Mr. Speaker, because the number is increasing on an ongoing basis. And I want to thank the staff and the management of the NEP for being very much in tune with the needs of the people of the Roseau South in terms of employment and ensuring that our young professionals can build the experience that they need to excel and to provide for their families, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I am elated to support this supplementary appropriation because 1 year after Maria, it is fitting to see that this government continues to aggressively pursue and to relentlessly pursue the establishment of a domestic geothermal plant. If we understand the factors that contributed to Maria, that is the global situation, the global challenge of climate change, we must look further and realize that this is perpetuated by the energy crisis. The use of fossil fuels to satisfy our energy needs has led to the onset of climate change. And so therefore, now we are forced to face challenges like Maria. But this government is demonstrating not just the articulation of political rhetoric, but the commitment, the vision, and the relentless pursuit of the geothermal plant so that we can ensure our energy needs are met in the Commonwealth of Dominica. And we can respond in a way in keeping with the commitments that we are making within the international community to reduce our carbon footprint and to reduce the reliance on fossil fuels as a source of energy. This energy, which will be cheaper from what I understand, will also make us more competitive in terms of manufacturing and industrial activities within our economy, Mr. Speaker. So I'm very proud of this Labour Party government for allocating the sum of $6.5 million to continue to pursue the establishment of a geothermal plant right here in the Commonwealth of Dominica, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the Office of the Prime Minister has facilitated for several years a public support program, which recently was upgraded to what we refer to as the Rapid Response Agency. And we see that sums have been allocated to continue in this regard to ensure that we can respond in a timely manner. And now, based on the experiences we've had, the lessons we've learned, in a very rapid manner to the urgent and emergency situations that will confront families throughout Dominica, Mr. Speaker. It is still very vexing to me, Mr. Speaker, the way that the program is spoken about by agents of the opposition in the public, as if they are insensitive, as if they are indifferent to the challenges and acute situations that confront families throughout Dominica, the Roseau South being no exception. And every time when I can hear a family member or a Roseau South constituent say, yes, I have received the assistance I need to help me with my health situation, or yes, I have received the assistance I need to continue developing my small business idea just on the immediate need that I have. Mr. Speaker, I feel a sense of pride to be a Dominican, to know that I am a citizen in a country where the government cares enough about the individual families to respond to their needs in a timely and a direct manner, Mr. Speaker. And so I want to commend the government for keeping this program. And the Honorable Kelvadaru pointed it out, through local funding. Most of the resources we speak about in this supplementary appropriation are financed through local funding. So it again shows the resourcefulness of this government and our resilience as a government to keep in tune and respond to our people's needs, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the allocation to the Ministry of Education continues to demonstrate our commitment to empower our young people with the greatest asset that they can possess, a solid education. And we see that at the tertiary level, that the government continues to provide assistance to our students with tuition, with accommodation, and in other areas, so that they can go to study in the region, right here in Dominica, some of them attending the UE Open Campus and other institutions, to have that tertiary level education, have that tertiary level qualification, so they can be more competitive on the job market. And so I'm very grateful to see the allocation being made under the Ministry of Education to the tune of some $3 million to settle payments at universities such as Grambling and Midwestern State, Mr. Speaker. And also locally at the Dominica State College, we are seeing that students continue to be facilitated with assistance for registration fees and tuition fees. And I really want to thank and commend the Honorable Peter Seja for being very much in support of the people of the Roseau South in that regard, because it's very timely in the way that they respond to the students who are in need from the Roseau South as far as their tuition fees and registration fees for the State College is concerned. But Mr. Speaker, education starts at an early age. And so primary school support, of course, must be considered. And just to thank the ministry and all the staff at the ministry for the assistance they have provided to numerous primary school students just at the close of this summer for uniforms, for shoes, and for school books, Mr. Speaker. I really want to thank the ministry for having done so. And to say to the parents, let us continue to work together to sacrifice the time and the energy so that now our young people have the bright and shining uniforms and school shoes. Let us sacrifice the time. Let us burn the midnight candle oil with them so that they can study and excel in the school environment, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, when we consider the allocation to the Ministry of Housing to address one of the most fundamental needs of humanity, shelter, decent shelter, it shows, Mr. Speaker, that this is a government that cares, and this is a government that will make no excuse for not satisfying the needs of the people. Oftentimes, I have sat here in this parliament in the short time that I have served so far and listened to members of the opposition compare the Commonwealth of Dominica to other countries, which they claim to be so much greater than ours. I would like to advise these gentlemen they should purchase a plane ticket and go to these countries, because I am sure, Mr. Speaker, as I stand here today, to be a citizen of the Commonwealth of Dominica, this is one of the greatest countries that you can ever be blessed to live, Mr. Speaker. There are countries with far larger gross domestic product than Dominica. There are countries with far larger financial reserve than the Commonwealth of Dominica. And when they are affected by natural disasters like hurricanes, they do not give direct assistance to their citizens with respect to their housing. In some cases, citizens are asked to take loans to repair their homes. But in the Commonwealth of Dominica, we demonstrate the compassion, we demonstrate the care, and we'll give the direct assistance and work with our people to restore their homes, Mr. Speaker. And so I want to thank the leader of our government, our Prime Minister, for making that sacrifice, because I cannot even understand where he gets the fortitude and the wisdom to find the resources that are required. When you consider the need, especially in Roseau South, it's monumental, Mr. Speaker. We're speaking in excess of $20 million. And so it will take a lot of time before we can help everybody. But I want to thank the Office of the Prime Minister for making sure that we have the technical support on the ground to reach out to people throughout the Roseau South and make sure that they benefit from the materials and the financial assistance that the government is making available. And to say to them that just be patient, hold strong, because we'll be reaching out to everybody. This is our intention, and we'll be not watching any political lines or religious lines in terms of helping people with their housing needs in the Roseau South, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I am very pleased to see the allocations to the housing sector. And it struck me as very odd when I heard comments from Senator Felix Thomas about the housing program, and to say that, you know, our educational system has failed in that regard. They just demonstrate the fact that he is out of touch with the reality in Dominica, Mr. Speaker. Because I can say to you that our Youth Development Division has trained numerous tradesmen, carpenters, plumbers, and people with electrical skills, Mr. Speaker, in the decades gone. And even presently, in the post-Maria response, working together with institutions like the International Organization for Migration, the Youth Development Division was able to assist them in putting together a training module which citizens from the Roseau South are undertaking today, learning to build core houses, learning to repair roofs. This is the proactive approach of this government. And so our educational system is very robust. The Youth Development Division is supporting the education of our young people to ensure that we have the skill set we need to respond to the challenge to repair the homes of Dominicans following Maria, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I support this supplementary appropriation because of the allocation to the Ministry of Health, particularly for the procurement of garbage compaction trucks, Mr. Speaker. As we know, we cannot exist in an unsanitary environment. The more unsanitary our environment is, it leads to an increase in health challenges and vectors for diseases. And so I'm very happy to see that trucks have been purchased. Those of us who are more closely associated with the staff of the Solid Waste Management Corporation, we know that this is one of their cries. Every time you speak to them, they always say, we need more trucks, we need more trucks. So I'm sure, and every member of the cabinet must be sure that people like Roseau South, I don't need to say his name, but people like Roseau South must be very happy to see that we now have the compaction trucks there available for use throughout the country. And also, I want to encourage our people across the country to support the government. As we speak about being climate resilient, it's important that we stop sending so much organic material to the landfill. Every time you have to construct a landfill, it can cost you in excess of $10 million. The lifespan of the landfill might just be on average 10 years. So in the next 100 years, will we spend $100 million on landfills? Or can we send all of the organic matter into compost production, into fertilizer production, so that we can save the money and increase the lifespan of the landfill? And so this government is well aware of this, and we're going to continue to encourage our people in the communities to make that transition in terms of our culture. Recycle and to not send our organic matter to the landfill. Mr. Speaker, on the matter of public works, we see that $29 million have been allocated for the dredging of rivers. And in the Roseau South, there are many, many areas, many communities that were it not for this activity, they would be very, very vulnerable. And I don't want to even think of what could have happened with the recent passage of Isaac, Mr. Speaker. And so I'm very happy to see this allocation, and I want to thank the government for its extensive work in dredging rivers throughout the Roseau South constituency and throughout Dominica. Mr. Speaker, finally, I'm very pleased to see that now, just about 14 years of having diplomatic relations with the People's Republic of China, we have an embassy in the People's Republic of China. I'll never forget crossing the old West Bridge that morning going to State College when I heard the announcement that the Prime Minister had established diplomatic relations. And 14 years on, I can say to you that scores of Dominicans have gone to China. We can see the tangible benefits that this relationship has brought to our country, Mr. Speaker. And most of all, we can see the genuine nature of this relationship, Mr. Speaker. So I think a relationship so genuine, so beneficial, it's very important that we have a presence in China to extend our Dominican warmth and to ensure that our mutual cooperation can continue to flourish, Mr. Speaker. And also, I want to say thanks to the Ministry of Education and to the government of China for once again ensuring that 2 citizens from the Roseau South constituency benefited from Chinese scholarships this year, Mr. Speaker. So I'm very happy for that, and I want to see this relationship continue and continue to flourish. So with these few words, Mr. Speaker, because we could elaborate on every single point on the supplementary appropriation, but the point must be made. This government is committed to helping and serving the people of Dominica. This government, under the leadership of the Honorable Dr. Roosevelt Skerrit, in my opinion, the wisest leader in the Western Hemisphere. We will make no excuse. We will make no excuse for falling short of what is required by the citizens of Dominica. But what we see on the opposite side of this House, Mr. Speaker, is people who will give every conceivable excuse for their inaction and their lack of compassion for the people in this country. So we'll continue to fight the good fight. We'll continue to stride forward in building the first climate resilient country in the world. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Acting Speaker, I move that the House be suspended until 3 p.m. this afternoon.
Seconded, Mr. Speaker.
It has been moved and seconded that this Honorable House be suspended until 3 p.m. this afternoon. Those in favor? Aye. Those against? The ayes have it. This Honorable House stands suspended until 3 p.m. this afternoon.
Mr. Speaker!
House resumes and debate continues. I see a member is very eager to begin. Please.
Madam Speaker, 2 months ago at the presentation of Dominica's national budget estimates for financial year 2018-2019, a total of $122,436,399 was allocated for home renovation and sanitation post-Hurricane Maria. 2 months later, we have a schedule of supplementary appropriations for the period January 2018 to June 2018 for home renovation and housing of $87,274,603. So the total sum for housing and sanitation as presented in the national budget added to these supplementary appropriations today is $209,711,002.36. And that's for home renovation post-Hurricane Maria. Now, Madam Speaker, there are 21 constituencies in the Commonwealth of Dominica. So let's do some simple calculation in order to determine an equitable distribution of housing assistance to the 21 constituencies in Dominica. If you divide $209,711,002.36 by 21 constituencies, you will get an average of $9.9 million per constituency. Rosenorf is the most populated constituency in the Commonwealth of Dominica, and by virtue of that fact, would necessitate a larger slice of the national budget for home renovation than the smaller, less populated constituencies. So that it stands to reason, Madam Speaker, that a much larger allocation than the national average of $9.9 million be appropriated to Rosenorf. At the sitting of the third session of the 9th Parliament on May 1st to the 3rd of May 2018, I asked Prime Minister Skerrit, Minister for Finance, Investment, Housing and Lands, how much money was allocated to Rosenorf for home renovation and rebuilding post-Hurricane Maria, to which Honorable Skerrit replied, and I quote, "To date, an amount of $2,072,822.86 have already been disbursed, and that repairs of damaged homes are ongoing." He continued, "The government is seeking to assist the vulnerable families and persons through direct representation by affected persons, referrals by the Ministry of Social Services, the parliamentary representatives, or the local government authorities," unquote. Prime Minister Skerrit interestingly added, and I quote, "Honorable Miriam Blanchard, because of her concern for the residents of Rosenorf constituency, took the initiative to assist residents with the assessments of damage to buildings," unquote. Now, Madam Speaker, what Prime Minister Skerrit did not say at that time in responding to my question was that Senator Blanchard was actually physically handing out cash and checks to residents of Rosenorf. My question is, under what authority can this happen?
Madam Speaker, the Honourable Member, imputing proper motives, I have never distributed cash for any housing assistance in the Rosenorf constituency.
Just a minute, you know, listen to
Sorry.
She didn't say that, Madam Speaker. She didn't say that. Yes, I said that, and I have evidence of that. No. If I have evidence, how can I be imputing improper motive? Yeah? You want me to state the evidence, Madam Speaker? Well, but I have evidence. Yes, I have evidence. Okay. No. I have something. Yes, Madam Speaker. I'm also a city councillor. You must always remember that. So I have access. To the records of City Council where I can see what is happening in terms of disbursements. My question is, Madam Speaker, what do you want me to withdraw?
As if you didn't know before, as if you are here for the first time today, since you're portraying that, I will assume that, and I will say to you, when a member is told that the Speaker has ruled that they are imputing improper motive, they must withdraw the item that the Speaker spoke about.
What's the item, Madam Speaker?
That you imputed improper motive. The member,
you haven't said what, Madam Speaker.
Excuse me, I did. Look, please, let's not play games this afternoon. You said something, and I even repeated it. I said, you said cash. You're now asking me what you said? Are you serious? You know what you said. You know what you said, that you imputed improper motive. You claim it's motive. I say it's improper motive. Please withdraw it so you can continue.
Withdrawn, Madam Speaker.
Pardon? I didn't hear that. Pardon?
Withdrawn, Madam Speaker.
Good. You will withdraw what you said, and I'm making it clear, since you are timid to do so, that the member was handing out cash and checks. That is what I have asked you to withdraw, and you've said withdrawn. I hope the stenographers pick that up. Let's move on, please.
So, Madam Speaker, my question is, under what authority can this happen in a system of governance where there are senior civil servants, permanent secretaries, staff of the Treasury and Ministry of Finance who rightly should be handling this? This is
just remember, you've withdrawn something there.
What, you want me to withdraw something?
You withdrew something.
Yes, Madam Speaker, I did.
Yes. And you're asking a question. Question time is over, but continue.
Yeah. This is an anything goes government where rules and regulations are abandoned, disobeyed, sidelined in favor of orders by Prime Minister Caricom.
You are imputing improper motive again, member.
Madam Speaker, sorry.
Yes, Madam Speaker.
And I'm asking you to withdraw that. Please don't ask me to make you take your seat. You will withdraw, and please refrain from imputing improper motive. You are here long enough to know what improper motive is. I shouldn't be having, at this stage of your tenure in the House, to be asking you if you know what improper motive is. You know, and you ought not to say it. I see another member on his feet. Can you? Pardon?
The honourable member for Rosenhoff has been in the House long enough.
What you rising on?
To know the rules of the House.
What are you rising on?
The member can I'm asking him what he's rising for, but you're on your feet. One of you will have to sit. Are you rising on a point of order?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, Madam Speaker.
He has to seek the permission of the Speaker of the House to read. That's one. You read it.
He rose on a point of order, and one of the standing orders said when a member wants to read his script, he should ask for permission. He's just reminding you of that.
Okay, Madam Speaker. So, Madam Speaker, $209
You're
million.
not going to be reading anymore, right?
No. $711,246 have already been disbursed. Rosenhoff is the largest constituency on Ireland, and as far as Prime Minister Skerritt's contribution to this House indicated or informed, $2.07 million for home repairs have been disbursed in Rosenhoff. Now, so Madam Speaker, while I will not name names of persons who received disbursements from Senator Blanchard, I would like to point, I'm going to point to residents out of the Rosenhoff.
Let me just tell you something. If you cannot understand what imputing improper motive is, I'll have to ask you to take your seat. You did it again. This is not here before me. You have accused them. There is another place to deal with what you are accusing the member of, not here. You cannot say it here. And if you persist, I will have to ask you to take your seat. Do you understand that part? Taking your seat. At least I hope so. You may not understand the huge concept of what imputing improper motive is. It's complicated. Yes. Okay? So one more time you repeat it, your seat is yours.
Okay, so I'm saying, Madam Speaker, whereas the allocation for Rosenhoff to date is $2.07 million, I am aware that there are persons outside the constituency of Rosenhoff who have received checks of $16,000 and $25,000, monies truly allocated for roads enough.
But remember, what do you think that is? What do you think that is? You're saying money was allocated to one place and it went to... That is imputing improper motive. Don't you understand that? No. No.
Madam Speaker, I'm saying that I'm a member of the council and I have...
I do not listen.
And the truth doesn't matter at all in this house.
Member,
The truth doesn't matter.
Okay, listen. Will you listen to me, please? This is the House of Parliament.
Yes.
It is true that the court sits here occasionally. The matter that you're addressing as it refers to the improper things that you are alleging happened is not for here. It's for a court, not for here. And when you speak here, you cannot accuse members of anything like you are doing. If you say you have the proof and you're a member of whatever, you're a member of the lodge, you're a member of Santa Claus Company, whatever, you go to the court with it. Here in this parliament, we are dealing with parliamentary issues and not court issues. Therefore, you may not impute improper motive. Once it is an improper motive and you think you have the proof, you go to the court with it. You don't come to the house with it. Is that clear?
Yes, I'm clear that truth and fact.
I don't care how you put it because you have an inimitable way of distorting the truth. But that is not my fault. I don't have that kind of mindset. Let's go.
Madam Speaker, on the 1st of June 2018, I hand-delivered 278 requisition forms for building materials to the Honorable Drygo, and for almost 3 months, these requisitions have not been dealt with. I was told by his secretary it was passed on to Prime Minister Skerrit, and to date, none of the families, the 278 families, have received a nail. It is unbelievable and unacceptable that the legitimately elected member of parliament have put in 278 requisitions for his constituents, and not one of those requisitions was honored by Prime Minister Skerrit. They're still sitting on his desk. Two ministers of government blocking assistance to residents of Rosenhof.
Take your seat, please. I've had enough. Please take your seat. Please, you don't seem to understand what imputing improper motive is.
What
I
is
don't
the
know
improper
how.
motive,
Please
Madam
take your
Speaker?
seat. I cannot.
What is the improper motive, Madam Speaker?
This is my problem. You don't even know when you're imputing improper motive. How do I teach you again, Modier?
But if they haven't received anything, what should I say?
You say so that they have not received anything. Because
That's a
people are
fact.
blocking. That is wrong. You can't say that. Don't you get it?
Yeah, we don't like truth, wrong here. I'm well aware of that. So, Madam Speaker, can I continue?
Remember,
Yeah.
I warned you 3 times. After I warned you and I told you no more, I'll ask you to sit, you did it a 2nd time. You've done it a 3rd time. You simply do not understand that you cannot impute improper motive. You cannot say of any member in the House that they did something, they put something the wrong place. Don't you know what imputing improper motive is after all these years, member?
Yes, Madam Speaker, I'm waiting to complete my presentation.
You may not understand imputing improper motive, but it's one thing. You portray a certain level of non-understanding.
Since you have up there, you have to account for it.
Remember, please, no more imputing improper motive. If you want to say something, you must not impute that some member did something wrongly. That is imputing improper motive.
So, Madam Speaker...
And how many times do I have to tell you withdraw? It means that nothing is going on the record anyway.
No, I've withdrawn long ago. But it doesn't seem that you want me to
You've
continue.
withdrawn what you said, but you need to withdraw your entire attitude about not
Withdraw my
understanding.
attitude, Madam Speaker?
Listen, I haven't finished. Your attitude about not understanding what imputing improper motive is.
Man, relax yourself, man. Chill out. All the things we seen up there on the thing. I hope you can account for it. You shut up, man.
Please,
Shut
please,
up.
please, please,
Shut
please,
up.
please, 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 none of this.
All the stealing that going up in the valley. So, Madam Speaker, I call on the IMF, the World Bank, and all other organizations who came to Dominica's assistance to demand accountability of this government. Rosa North is being sidelined and rejected. Rosa South, Rosa Central, Marigot, Wesley, Salisbury are being sidelined. We are not getting our fair share of the resources of government. But, Madam Speaker, the countdown is on. It's out with the old and in with the new. It's the end of a one-man governance to a new enlightened thinkers who will take Dominica to the promised land. A land where diaspora Dominicans can return to the best place to live, the best place to work, and the best place to enjoy life.
Go ahead, member.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Order, please. Continue.
Madam Speaker, I rise to make my contribution to the supplementary estimates for the period July to December of 2017. Before I proceed with my specific presentation, I would just like to make two clarifications that was put forward by the member for the St. Joseph constituency, Honorable Calvert Arrow, to inform him, yes, I did recognize what the contribution and work done by the government of Dominica post-Hurricane Maria. However, the reporting by the press about impressed with, I did not make that statement, just for clarification. Also, I would like to make a point where he suggested that government having paid double bubble to public servants post-Hurricane Maria, even though we were in crisis, shows the management capacity, financial management capacity of the government and the Honorable Prime Minister in particular. Whereas it is good that people did receive their double. I would like to suggest that in a crisis situation like that, a good government would have probably approached the Public Service Union and see whether there could have been delayed payment given the many other priorities facing the government in terms of prioritizing the needs of the country. Secondly, Madam Speaker, he also made mention about the question about good governance and reduced expenditure. I would like to suggest that the best and most obvious way to reduce expenditure in the public service right now is to reduce the size of the cabinet, a cabinet that is not performing, ladies and gentlemen. Madam Speaker, I have already made the mention here in Parliament that the debate with respect to supplementary estimates seems to be redundant in that we are really asked to rubber stamp something, expenditures made. However, it has come to my attention that there may be one or two items on the list provided, or supplementary list provided, that may not have yet been paid. For example, the amount said to be for settlement of Mr. Gildon Richards' government where the matter went to court. It's my understanding that this has not been settled. So probably, when the Prime Minister is winding up his debate, may want to identify which are the items in this supplementary estimates that comprise of proposed expenditure and those that are actually expenditures already. Because, Madam Speaker, we come to this Parliament on twice yearly in the financial year to approve supplementary estimates. Yes, the Constitution provides for that. And it is recognized that in situations there is need for the government to be able to do spending without necessarily obtaining further approval from or advance approval from Parliament. I noticed, for example, in the supplementary estimates that we are asked to consider, combining the two supplementary estimates for the financial year in question, 1917 to 1918, the amount for budgeted was 930.185 million. The supplementary estimates combined comes to 334.8.3 million, 36% of the budget. As I've said already, any of us who have a contractor or consultant providing services and they give us a budget, and then he comes or he or she comes to tell you, well, you know, I made mistakes or I need to spend, and the excess is almost 40%, we would fire the person. We say, hey, you're not ready yet to be doing that to us. And it is a common thing that it is, yes, Hurricane Maria, and I recognize that there will be additional spending and not necessarily getting prior approval. But the fact that previous years, when I looked at the figures, it always ranged between 15 to 25%. So we need to improve our budgeting. And the Constitution anticipates that. Because under Section 78(3) of the Constitution, in interest of time, I will just read a very short section of it, Madam Speaker. If, in respect of any financial year, it is found that the amount appropriated by the appropriation law to any purpose is insufficient, and it goes on to say that a need has arisen for expenditure for a purpose of which no amount has been appropriated, that any money has been expended or for any purpose in excess of the amount appropriated. It says that a supplementary estimate showing the sums required or spent. My emphasis is required. We seem to be coming here in Parliament all the time, dealing with what has already been spent. In a situation like after Hurricane Maria, it was a very good opportunity for the government to use the occasion to come up with proposals for additional spending, to debate in Parliament the priorities, and to engage the opposition in the needs of the country. And I'm suggesting that it's a missed opportunity. And instead, we are being asked here to rubber stamp expenditures exceeding $300 million. And whereas we could, the Parliament met once to look at I think it was the extension of state of emergency. Parliament could have met to debate important issues here in the supplementary estimate. For example, the reestablishment of an office in China in terms of our diplomatic relations. Could that have been, delayed? Could that have been delayed for that purpose? So this is where the discussions takes place. This is where an opportunity to debate rather than do the spending and come into Parliament. But as I said, this is what we are faced with, and hopefully, if I have the opportunity to advise this incoming United Workers' Party administration, I think there should be a caveat. There should be a limit as to the amount that can be spent as on the supplementary estimate before approval, 10, 15%. But anytime we go exceeding that, we need to come back to Parliament for prior approval. And I know that the former administration of Ms. Mary Jean Charles of blessed memory, this was a concern to her, and she took a principal position that she would not be making such large spending on the supplementary estimate. Madam Speaker, I would like to now turn to, notwithstanding I have to debate it, so I'll debate it. Item, a question of the geothermal expenditure of 6.95 million thereabout for continuation of the geothermal project of the Commonwealth of Dominica under this administration. The 2018-2019 estimates projects $73 million spent or will be spent by the end of this financial year, including $15.5 million for this financial year. Madam Speaker, spending on this project seems to be going in a deeper and deeper hole. There seems to be no ending. It seems the hole for spending seems to be as deep as the wells in Loader. Yet, to date, the country has no idea as to the resulting cost of the unit cost of that energy. Absolutely no idea what we are spending. Imagine, Madam Speaker, this amount of $70+ million was spent in the area of renewable energy as to hydro, to solar, to wind. We would have achieved renewable energy self-sufficiency by now. And the number of jobs that have been created for young people coming out of the colleges, and particularly the state college, because this is the technology is one that young people can grasp on and be employed in that area. Madam Speaker, it is too late maybe for this administration to turn back. There's a saying that says, you can bring the mule to the river, but you can't force it to drink. But I am suggesting, Madam Speaker, that when this United Workers' Party administration come into office, we'll review that project. If it is not completed, we'll review it in the interest of the country, not to say we do not want renewable energy, in the interest of the country, and to chart the area that will create fastest return at the same time at a lower cost. In fact, if you look at the report that deals with renewable energy, that the decision is being made, the report identified all the opportunities. That's the advantage Dominica has. That we have multiple areas, geothermal, wind, solar, etc. And we should have taken the path, least expense, and creating the most jobs and faster realization of the need for meeting our needs with respect to renewable energy. So I cannot tell the government to stop. That's where you are going to. But I'm suggesting that it was the wrong path, and we must acknowledge that it was the wrong path taken, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I would like to pay some attention now to the expense or allocations for housing renovation in the estimates. A quantified amount of 248.9 million, say 249 million, an additional 85 million in the current financial year. Madam Speaker, it is a lot of money. A lot of money going to housing and housing renovation. But there are some serious concern as to how that money is being spent. There was a question posed to the Minister of Housing and Prime Minister and Minister of Finance, the Honorable Dr. Roosevelt Skerrit, as I read it in here. I'll just read briefly the section most important to the debate right now. The question was, will the Honorable Minister inform this Honorable House of Government's housing policy for the equitable distribution of housing assistance to homeowners?
Just 1 minute. When was that?
That was the House of Assembly, let me just try and find that, Madam Speaker, it's right at the back here. That was questions for meeting of the House of Assembly on Tuesday, May 1, 2018.
Does this you?
Yes.
And your reason is?
I'm just going to use that to debate the allocations here in supplementary estimates as to housing renovations and the way it is used relative to the policy that the government presented that they would be observing in the expense as far as home renovation after Hurricane Maria.
Okay, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. So, Madam Speaker, the Honorable Prime Minister and Minister of Housing indicated as follows. Based on the analysis of the building damage
you're doing the answer.
I'm reading it.
You're reading the answer.
Yes, yeah,
Have you read the question?
Sorry?
Have you read the question?
Oh, I was reading the question when you asked me for explanation.
Oh, okay.
You want me to read it again, Madam Speaker?
Oh, you had done. You had finished reading the question.
Yes.
I missed it. Okay, go ahead.
You want me to read it?
No. Go ahead.
Just I'm not concerned about time, Madam Speaker. That's all.
No, that's why I'm telling you. Go ahead too.
Okay, thank you. Based on the analysis of the building damage assessment undertaken, the government has considered giving priority to the following targeted vulnerable groups: elderly, households headed by single women, persons with disability, persons living in shelters, persons without insurance coverage, persons who have lost their jobs or livelihoods. Good intent, laudable objectives. However, in practice, what we are seeing is not that, Madam Speaker. For example, in the Cathedral's constituency, presently, there are elderly persons living in the youth center, considered a shelter, and not even electricity in that shelter, Madam Speaker. For months they have been there. How can you have such a policy and the elderly persons are treated that way? And every one of the elderly persons in that shelter had a house before Hurricane Maria. So if this is the policy throughout, and this is the approach throughout the country, I am saying that we need to review what we are doing. We need to pay more attention to the policy relative to the amount we are spending in respect to housing and housing renovation, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, also single parents, particularly women, many of them did not own a house. They were tenants. They lose all their furniture. Some of them lose their jobs, and there's no indication. If there's spending going on here, let us know. Let us know the number of persons, particularly single parents, who have been assisted with the millions, over $80+ million spent so far. It would be nice if the Minister of Housing could give us some information so we can feel that the policy is being implemented, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, also of concern and grave concern is the question of respecting and recognizing and accepting the requirements of the Procurement Act. It would also be informative for the nation to know that the amount being spent for the purchase of building materials, over $32 million, is the procurement going through government agencies? If so, I have no difficulties. But if it is going through private sector, what's their tendering? The purpose of tendering is to ensure that we get the best price for the best value, savings. So we'd like to know, Mr. Minister of Finance, please, when you're summing up, let us know whether the $32 million spent for purchase of building materials, whether it was through government agencies or the private sector. And it is through the private sector. If there was no tendering, give an explanation why there was no tendering, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I would like also speak to the quality of the building material. Post-Hurricane Maria, the government rightly took a position that the galvanized that was being sold to homeowners in the country was unacceptable, 25 gauge, 26 gauge. And they took the position that such material should not be brought into the country anymore. And it was amazing, shocking, that just 2 weeks ago, I went to the distribution center at Castle Bruce where the government is distributing material. And the galvanized there is, it might even be worse than 25 and 26 gauge. We need an explanation. How can we be asking poor people to make sure that if they're doing a new roof, they must get planning approval? If there was insurance settlement, the money goes, and you had a mortgage, the money goes to the bank or the credit union, they must show approval of an approved roof plan, and the planning department insists of the requirements, and the government is giving away material to poor people that is below the standard they recommend. Double standard. It is not right. It is immoral. And I'm asking the government.
No, that's where you went a little too far. Yes, because you yourself are imputing improper motive call.
Well, I didn't see that way, Madam Speaker. If you rule it is immoral, the word immoral, I take it back. I take it back.
Okay.
I didn't see it that way. It was just to reinforce the point. So, Madam Speaker, I am saying that there is need for the government to use its agency, particularly the development control section of the physical planning department, the technical people around the country, to ensure not just that you give people material, but they use it consistent with the policy of building resilience. And this is what we need to do. And I ask the government to pay attention to this. I would also like to state, Madam Speaker, to avoid even trying to, I don't like to get too close to imputing the problem, but it's a fact, Madam Speaker. There is a lot of complaints that there are people out there getting building materials from the government and they are sending it to other people because they don't need it. Some people have even approached me because they know I'm involved in construction. Do you want Mr. Material Baptist? Something needs to happen.
This is the same thing I'm talking about. You're bringing matters to the House that should be properly brought to the court, don't you think?
No, something like that, I don't believe that to the court. What I find, I'll give you an explanation, Madam Speaker. What's happening? Some people are getting more than they deserve. Having repaired the roof.
That, you see, you have to be...
No, they're not stealing it, Madam Speaker. They're not stealing the material. It's given to them. But I'm
Okay,
saying...
well, I don't know what to do
But
to say again.
Let me develop the point, please, if you may allow me to do that. The point I am making, while some people are not getting enough to do what they have to do, there are those who are getting so much that after they finish doing what they do, they have enough to sell to other people. The appropriate thing to do is to return it to the agency or to the distribution center and say, I did not need that amount. Can you take it and give it to other people? That's the approach they should take. But instead...
Sorry. Before I rule it being improper, the they you're referring to is who? The people who receive the material?
Generally.
Okay.
The Minister of Government or...
Okay, I got you. Mm-hmm.
Thank you again, Madam Speaker, for not understanding me.
I'm trying my best to, but
I
the factors mitigate against me.
So sometimes
Okay, now you have 4 minutes left, eh?
Really?
Yes, sir.
Madam Speaker, with all due respect, when you asked me to speak, how many minutes do I have to speak? Is it 30 minutes?
30 minutes, yes.
When I stood up to speak, Madam Speaker, all due respect to your watch, I stood up to speak at 20 minutes after the hour.
Yes, that is what I'm saying, and what is it saying now?
That's 20 minutes gone.
No. When you stood up, my watch was saying 20, and it's now saying, mon Dieu, quarter to dead on.
No, I was looking at the watch.
Well, look, you can see what I'm doing it with the time. Who start, and the time continues. The last person who spoke before you, and so on. The last person spoke from 3:05 to 3:20.
When I stood up to speak on the matter, it was 20, based on the clock.
Well, I'll tell you. I'm keeping time. I'm sorry, but you'll have to defer to my time, and next time draw my attention to what's up there, and I'll look.
I think I'll be disrespecting if I do that.
And what you think is happening now?
Madam Speaker, can I continue? How many more time? How many more minutes?
4 minutes now.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
No, 3 minutes. Oh my God, 3 minutes more.
I think one day the members on the other side will understand the situation I face when I stand to speak, and that they might just come to my rescue one day. Madam Speaker, let us deal with the dredging of the rivers. $28.9 million spent today. Previous estimates had an allocation of $20.8 million. Not all of it went into dredging, but some of it went into dredging. Yes, we need to dredge the rivers. However, Madam Speaker, how can you have such a large amount on projects of that nature? No bidding again, no tendering, no tender. The only way we can know that we could probably do the dredge, if we have just dredged 10 rivers, the only way we could know that we could dredge 12 is we are tendering. And then you take the best bid, but nothing of that nature. And such a major activity and project, serious environmental impact, no environmental impact studies or statements as to what are the implications for the coastline, what's the implication for properties along these rivers. Yes, you open it up, you spread it, and the velocity might reduce. However, there are serious implications. We cannot, in a situation where we talk about resilience, and yet doing development practices very inconsistent with the practice of resilient development, Madam Speaker. Also, so much good quality field material. My colleague, Honorable Senator Felixton, was pointing to the fact that why can't we use some of this material to protect our coastline? The situation from Maho back to Loubier, excluding the city of Roseau, there is need. Some of these houses are just 5 feet, particularly in Maho, Loubier, 5 feet from the river, from the ocean. Can't we use such high quality material for land reclamation along those areas to provide protection in the age of high sea level rise? When I raised this recently in the House, Honorable Minister of Communication Works responded that, yes, we are going to do it. When will it start, Mr. Minister of Communication Works? I hope you can speak to that when you come to do your presentation. So I urge the government to make more effective use of spending in those areas, respect good development practices so that we can get the best for the country. This is what we're all about. getting the best for the country, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I know I don't have much more time, but I will just try to deal with some quick issues, some matter with respect to. If it's 3 seconds, Madam Speaker, I'll take my seat. 30 seconds, that's all right, I'll take my seat. Unless the members on the other side want to give me extra time. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Madam Speaker, thank you. These supplementary appropriations amount to $248,991,776. Of that amount, $34,483,225.37 coming from grants, and $214,508,550.91 from local sources, which we understand essentially primarily to mean citizenship by investment. But, Madam Speaker, there is an amount of $27,961,418, which is spread across 9 line items and said to come from Hurricane Maria Relief Fund. And that Hurricane Maria Relief Fund, without more, suggests that this would be contributions that are received from various sources. It would be good if, in winding up, there could be an indication whether that is the full extent of the Hurricane Maria relief contributions that were received subsequent to that devastating storm on the 18th day of September in 2018. Madam Speaker, there is an amount of $6.5 million just about that is said to have been spent on financing for activities on the Dominica's Geothermal Development Company Limited. Again, it would be useful to know what that is, because the geothermal project and initiative is not anything new to us. One wonders why there would not have been adequate budgetary provision for it, and there needed to be spent in the last half of the previous financial year, an amount of $6.5 million. I notice as well, Madam Speaker, an amount of $700,000. $700,000. And that amount was said to be, if I can just find it here, $700,000. I'm hoping it didn't disappear. Can somebody help me where this $700,000 is? Yeah, $700,000. It's on page 1. Claims against government. And the explanation says, to meet payment to claimant Gildan Richards in the civil matter, Dom HCV 336 of 2002, Gildan Richards versus the Attorney General et al. Gildan Richards is representing me, Madam Speaker, in a matter before the court which occupied the entire lunch period that the Parliament declared today. So I am just from seeing Gilden Richards, and I mentioned to him that this morning in the House of Assembly, in presenting the supplementary appropriations, the Prime Minister indicated that there was an amount of $700,000 that in the period January to June of 2018 went to meet a payment to you, sir. And Mr. Richards advised, and he gave me the authority to disclose this to the Parliament, that he has not received any money from the government. In fact, there is a stay against that payment. So we see provision for the money, an indication here that it has been spent as of somewhere between January and June of 2018. And the claimant in the matter is indicating that he has not received the money, and in fact, there is a stay of execution against the payment, which is in the court process right now. And so it would be good to know or to find out in the wrap-up, or by somebody who knows on the other side, what is this about? Because the impression we have here is that this money has been paid. But the person who's supposed to receive it is indicating it has not been paid. Some clarification would be good. Madam Speaker, there's an item on the second page under the Ministry of Finance allocations, which tells us that there was a grant and contribution, something styled a grant and contribution, or grant and or contribution for $5 million, and that was an amount required to assist First Domestic Insurance Company to meet its financial obligations. That is what we saw in what was presented to us. The papers came from the Parliament some days before this meeting, and so that is what we read. When the Prime Minister presented this morning, he indicated that it was a loan. There's a big difference between a loan and a grant. The loan means it has to be paid back. At what interest rate? On what conditions? And against what collateral was the loan granted? Which lending institution received the unlended funds so that they could pass it to First Domestic Insurance, or was it a direct payment from the government? It would be useful to know all of these things in the interest of transparency and accountability, because after all, the Ministry of Finance is responsible for the regulation of insurance companies in Dominica. And when we read in this explanation that the amount is required to assist an insurance company meet its financial obligations, and the Prime Minister spoke this morning about difficulties having to do with claims from Maria and so on, immediately, if you know anything about the insurance business, you would start asking yourself, well, what happened to the reinsurance cover that was supposed to be providing for all of these claims? And so the question arises as to what is the government program under which this loan was granted, and is such a facility available to other companies in similar positions? Because bailouts and assistance to private sector companies are not new. They happen all around the world. And so it is good that this government can do something of that nature. But it always concerns us that these facilities, being funded from the public purse, where we're using public money, are available to everybody in need equitably. So if it's available to First Domestic, we want to know the program under which it was available, and whether everybody else in a similar position, or maybe in a worse position, can come to their government and be assisted in that way. It would be good as well, Madam Speaker, to know how is it that the government was able to ensure that the money is advanced, and we understand now it's a loan, that those loan funds were put to the purposes for which they were intended? What sort of arrangements accompanied the disbursement of this loan? And is that the extent of the assistance or the bailout for First Domestic? Is there something else that is coming at us when we read the next round of supplementary appropriations? Or is this it, $5 million? Madam Speaker, there's an item described as bulk purchase of building materials, an amount of $17,274,603. That is part of the $87.9 million spend in the Ministry of Housing over the 6-month period. So the question arises, Madam Speaker, who is receiving this building material and on what basis? We have not yet seen eligibility criteria for the assistance that will be handled from expenditure of this nature. Everybody needs to know on what basis they can participate or they can be assisted from resources like these. And who is the custodian of these building materials? This $17.3 million worth of building materials paid for from the public purse of Dominica. And I want to make the observation, Madam Speaker, that every time I hear the members on the government side, I get this impression that insofar as the storm damage and so is concerned, they are sitting on personal money that belongs to them and they're helping people from their personal resources. And it's like they're doing a favor to the people, something that they're not obligated to do. And it is so wonderful that the people can receive all this from them. This is the people's money, whether it comes from taxes, whether it comes from donations, here or overseas, whether it comes from the sale of passports, the money belongs to the people of Dominica, and so the people of Dominica are entitled to that money to help them in their difficult circumstances. And all of this talk about, the observations made on this side in the interest of transparency and good governance are being made because people don't like people or they don't want their house to be covered. You all know that that is not true. So stop saying it and be honest for a change, because this money, these funds, you're coming to the Parliament of Dominica for approval after the fact of spending it, meaning it's not your money, it is the people's money. Everything that goes into the treasury of the Commonwealth of Dominica belongs to the people of Dominica, and they are entitled to use it for their good. So, Madam Speaker, there is an item, House Renovation and Sanitation Program, $380,243.65, said to be needed to meet commitments on behalf of the Cuban personnel undertaking emergency housing repairs. So let me take the opportunity to thank the government and people of Cuba for all of the wonderful assistance that they've given to Dominica post-Maria, and for the fact that we can have Cuban personnel still in Dominica 1 year later looking after emergency housing repairs. Who is benefiting from these emergency housing repairs? We hope on this side that it is the people of Dominica who are genuinely in need. Because, Madam Speaker, There are all sorts of stories making the rounds about properties owned by political parties and so on, benefiting from this kind of assistance and benefiting from assistance that should be available to the ordinary, struggling, suffering people of Dominica who are having a hard time receiving it. Madam Speaker, Ministry of Public Works, total spend of 69.8 million for the period. And I keep making the point that obviously, Madam Speaker, there's a lot of work for public works to do. There's a lot of public works for our public works department to do. But the more work that is available for the public works department to do, the less that public works has to do. And again, we wonder why. Because these are the days of no-bid contracts. These are the days of untendered public sector projects and no space for public works. We had a situation in Erica where we were left with more work than any public works department could manage, but yet the complaint or the story was that there was no work for public works to do. And Madam Speaker, with this kind of money being spent on the public works of Dominica, there really is no sound good governance reason why the Public Works Department cannot be revamped, cannot be properly restructured, and cannot be made to serve the interests of the state of Dominica as it has done so well under previous administrations. This is the administration, by the way, that has presided over a period in which there has been the most work for Public Works Department to do, but this is the administration that has managed to shut down public works. And the people of Dominica must absolutely ask them why. Madam Speaker, another item that caught my attention there has to do with, it says sundry expenses under the Ministry of Foreign Affairs to facilitate the engagement of a new resident ambassador of the Commonwealth of Dominica to the People's Republic of China. And what this raises, Madam Speaker, is the issue of planning, the issue of judicious use of the public resources, because the last resident ambassador of Dominica to China demitted office in China, as you would remember, in 2009. So in 2010, we had no ambassador in Beijing. In 2011, we had no ambassador in Beijing. In 2012, we had no ambassador to Beijing. In 2013, 2014, 2015, 2016, 2017, no ambassador to Beijing. 2018, 9 years go by. 9 years out of the 14 years in which we have had diplomatic relations with China, we have functioned, and there's been no explanation for this. So maybe we'll get an explanation from somebody on the other side who knows. 9 years out of the 14 years in which we've had diplomatic relations, we have not had an ambassador to Beijing. But no one has said that the relationship between Roseau and Beijing was impaired at all in any way, shape, or form during those 9 years in which we didn't have an ambassador. Now all of a sudden, when we should know what we're doing, we come up with extra budgetary spending of $381,000 for what? To facilitate the engagement of a new resident ambassador of the Commonwealth of Dominica to the Republic of China. What is this going to do that we did not have to do in the previous 9 years? What? What? It would be good. It would be good for there to be an explanation, Madam Speaker. And Madam Speaker, Madam Speaker, generally, we see some items here, public support program, total of about $9.5 million to meet commitments to different individuals under the program. I suspect that in future we'll be seeing these funds coming from a different head, because this Parliament has passed the Rapid Response Social Recovery Agency, which effectively takes over the operation of the public support program. So maybe this will be the last set of supplementaries that we see under the head public support program. And there is a new law now, as of sometime earlier this year, that will apply where the expenditure of these funds are concerned. But just, again, to say, the issue is not helping people. The issue is not using the public purse to help people, because governments, Madam Speaker, exist for making the lives of people better. But it's about making the lives of all people better. It's not about, you don't have the luxury in government of picking and choosing who you will help. And there's quite a bit of that going on, which is causing people some stress and strain as they try to put their lives back together in the aftermath of Hurricane Maria. I just want to note in closing, Madam Speaker, that in all of these funds that were spent here, $248,991,776, Madam Speaker, we don't see 1 cent that was spent on climate resilient shelter anywhere in Dominica. And there's a concern around the country that the shelters, that especially those that were damaged during Hurricane Maria, have not received adequate attention or any attention at all. We didn't know the storm was coming, and so we would not have had money in the budget to take care of all these things. That is why I'm surprised that for the 6-month period, January to June, when we really should have been concerned about how we put people back on the shelters in the event that they needed that kind of safety and security during this hurricane season that began on June 1. Certainly, in the period January to June, we ought to have seen an overspend or an extra budgetary spend on some shelter somewhere, or some shelters in some parts of Dominica. But Madam Speaker, unfortunately, absolutely nothing, which raises the question as to whether the priorities are right, and as to whether this government is really focused, as it should, on generally improving the lives of people and ensuring their safety and comfort during times like these, especially the hurricane season of 2018. Madam Speaker, supplementary appropriations are never anything that you have any issue with from the standpoint of whether to spend or not to spend, because the money has already been spent. And generally, at that level, we understand why the need for extra budgetary spending. The comments being made here this afternoon are all in the interest of ensuring fairness, transparency in the operations and the use of government resources, and ensuring that everybody benefits according to the levels of their need, regardless of who they are, where they are, or who they support. Madam Speaker, thank you very much.
Madam Speaker, I rise to make my contribution in support of the supplementary appropriation for January 2018 to June 2018. Oh, my apologies, Madam Speaker. Thank you very much. Madam Speaker, if ever there was a time that the supplementary appropriation would have been justified, it would have been in the last year, Madam Speaker. The reason for supplementary appropriation, as we all agree, Madam Speaker, is to facilitate unplanned and unforeseen spending in the government system. So the classic example we had, of course, was tropical Hurricane Maria, Madam Speaker, which hit us and wiped out 220% of the gross domestic product of Dominica. Wiped out 96% of the housing stock. And Madam Speaker, according to what I have heard from the members of the opposition, 1 week after the hurricane struck, what was the Prime Minister supposed to do? He was supposed to come to the house asking for permission to cover people's homes. Was he supposed to come to the house asking for permission to purchase much needed supplies, Madam Speaker, for the people of Dominica who were out in the rain and subject to the elements? Or was a proactive government supposed to move quickly to alleviate the plight of the citizens of the country as a result of Hurricane Maria? And that is what we did. And so that is why, Madam Speaker, we should not have a cause for a debate on the supplementary appropriation before us, Madam Speaker. In fact, every single member, especially parliamentary representatives, Madam Speaker, should be applauding the use of those funds that are before us today, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, in every single community, and note I didn't say every constituency, in every single community, the government has reached out to persons in need after Hurricane Maria. And it is sad, you know, when we hear persons who have placed themselves as elected parliamentarians put themselves forward to represent the people, making statements like they will not involve themselves in the fish market type, Madam Speaker, for asking for support and assistance for their constituents. You have been elected to represent the people, Madam Speaker. And if you have to march, Madam Speaker, into hell and damnation to represent your people, Madam Speaker, that is what they expect of you. And if you had a proper system in place, and the first part of that system is to have your constituency offices open, staffed and running, Madam Speaker, you would be in a position to represent your people. That is what it takes. So that is why we would not have to be here wasting time now debating one of the most justified supplementary appropriations in the history of this country. I mean, how can we be here after Hurricane Maria, after houses were demolished, people's homes were destroyed, people out in the elements, Madam Speaker? The Prime Minister had to rush to the United Nations with the very clothes that he had on him, Madam Speaker. He had to put the shoes he had on his feet behind a fridge to dry because he didn't have clothes. Before he left Dominica, he had to send a message to friends in New York to buy clothes for him so that he could stand and represent our country and the plight that we were in after the destruction of Hurricane Maria, Madam Speaker. That is what resulted in the supplementary appropriation that we have before us today. So we should be here standing, Madam Speaker, and supporting the motion before the House. That is what we should be doing. And, Madam Speaker, a lot of the elements, a lot of the spending, Madam Speaker, we see here, I am even amazed, Madam Speaker, that those spendings could have been made, even in very difficult times. Even after 220% of our gross domestic product had been wiped away, Madam Speaker, we still kept our promises, because this government is a government which the Prime Minister have always said, a promise made is a promise kept. And in hard times, in difficult times, 4 months after Hurricane Maria, September, October, November, December, Madam Speaker, we kept our promises to the public servants of this country that we would have paid the double bubble, and we in fact did pay the double bubble to the people of Dominica. So if you're interested in people, these are some of the highlights of this supplementary appropriation that you must mention and you must congratulate the government on. And Madam Speaker, you know, as politicians, our statements go to our credibility, and the people are listening, you know. And that is why I want to applaud Senator Baptiste for coming out in the open in defiance of his leader and saying that what this government has done so far is excellent. Senator, I applaud you, Senator, for your forthrightness, Senator. I applaud, because we know in our hearts that the strides that this country has made today, Madam Speaker, after the worst natural disaster in the Western Hemisphere known to man, we have made remarkable recovery in this country. Remarkable recovery, Madam Speaker. And I want to applaud a department of my ministry, the National Employment Program, better known as the NEP, Madam Speaker. I can boast, Madam Speaker, that 40 years from now, 50 years from now, when the history of Dominica will be recorded, if anything else we will be remembered for is the remarkable work of the interns under the National Employment Program, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, because like an army, the National Employment interns moved into action immediately after Hurricane Maria in every community. And in part, that is why we have been so successful with the cleanup of the country after Hurricane Maria. All over the country, the NEP interns took to the streets, took to the highways, and took to the byways, Madam Speaker, and we cleaned up the country, and that in itself raised the morale of the people, gave the people hope, Madam Speaker, and we moved in again even before the international community could come to our assistance. We ourselves had the necessary funds to be able to purchase relief supplies and had it in Dominica so that we could relieve the plight of our people in Dominica. That is a good economy. That is a sign, Madam Speaker, of a buoyant economy. That is a sign of a strong fiscal position, that we had our own resources, our own domestic resources, that we could at least start and kickstart the reconstruction process and the relief process even before the international community could mobilize and come to our assistance, Madam Speaker. And I will always say that if we are responsible politicians on any side of the political spectrum, when something is good, like Senator Baptiste, say it is good. And the Citizenship by Investment Program, all of us in this honorable house have a duty to protect and to promote that program, because that is the goose that is now laying the golden egg, Madam Speaker. That is the goose that laying the golden egg. It's no secret. It's no mystery. It's the way the program has been structured. And Madam Speaker, as proponents of your own type of program in your own time, which was the re-engineered economic citizenship program, Madam Speaker, I would have expected the members of the opposition to support the success of our recovery efforts because of the resources available to this government through the Citizenship by Investment Program. And some of that is what we are using, Madam Speaker, to meet the stipends of our interns under the National Employment Program. And I want to take this opportunity again to reassure and to assure all of the interns within the sound of my voice right now that nobody will take away your jobs from you as long as the Dominica Labour Party continues to be the government of Dominica. But we heard from the opposition, and it is clear, if perchance, peradventure, perhaps, Siatuka translated just in case they were to come to power, all of these social programs, including the NEP, the National Employment Program, will be wiped away. I want our people to remember that these are the words. Oh yes, that is what you have said, Madam Speaker, and that is what the opposition has on record. And we will remember that, Madam Speaker. We'll remember that. And, Madam Speaker, we were the ones who established Dominica State College. We built the college when the Honorable Prime Minister was the Minister of Education. And before the Dominica State College, we had the Clifton Dupini Community College. And only about 70 or 75 students around Dominica could go to the Dominica State College, to go to the Clifton Dupine Community College. But because of this government and the establishment of the Dominica State College, every single student leaving a secondary school in Dominica right now is assured a place at the Dominica State College. And we are continuing our commitment. We could find $1 million to pay off the fees owed by the students. And that is a government that cares about the youth of Dominica. It is clear that one of the pillars of this government is human resource development and the education of our young people. And the $1 million on behalf of the youth all around Dominica, but most importantly, of my constituency and those who go to the Dominica State College, I want to say thank you to this government. And I met with them just about 2 weeks ago, Madam Speaker. All my students going to start school in September at the Dominica State College. And I assured them that as long as Ian Douglas is the parliamentary representative and this Labour Party led by Dr. Roosevelt Skerry continues to be the government of the day, their place at the Dominica State College will be assured, Madam Speaker, and we will ensure that they go to the Dominica State College. And we'll pay the fees. We'll pay the fees, Madam Speaker, for them. Don't worry about Ross. Don't worry about Ross, Senator, member for the Roseau North constituency. That is covered already. And this government, Madam Speaker, this government have reason to every single challenge that have faced us in the last 18 years. And we have overcome, Madam Speaker. From the devastation and the disaster caused by United Workers' Party in 1995 to every single natural disaster we have faced, including Hurricane Maria, Madam Speaker, we have overcome and we will continue to overcome, and we will continue to ensure that the citizens of the Commonwealth of Dominica continue to progress and develop under this government. That is our pledge to them, Madam Speaker. And one of the most important programs, Madam Speaker, capital development programs in Dominica today is the Geothermal Development Program. Every single school child in Dominica right now, every single citizen in Dominica knows about the Geothermal Program. And I want to assure the public that the program is on track, Mr. Speaker. Madam Speaker, the World Bank was here just about 2 weeks ago, 2 Thursdays ago. The World Bank team was here, and they are very impressed. They said they are very happy with the progress that we are making under the Geothermal Development Program. Madam Speaker, the office, the Dominica Geothermal Development Company is formed right now. It is staffed, Madam Speaker. The building and the office is right there in Roseau, opposite the Prevost City Mall. People must visit the office to see the work that the company is doing on behalf of that program. Madam Speaker, the negotiations between the company, the government of Dominica, and Domlec, Madam Speaker, is progressing nicely. Our application will go to the World Bank by December, Madam Speaker, for funding, because we have secured all of the funding that we need for the building of the domestic plant. And while I am at it, Madam Speaker, I want to say thank you to the government of New Zealand, who have sent down a project manager, is on the ground here and has been, Madam Speaker, for the last year, working in the Roseau Valley. We know that our wells have been dug, the wells have been maintained. Thank God there have been no damage to the wells as a result of Hurricane Maria. And the project is moving on smoothly, Madam Speaker. The project is moving on smoothly. Thank God for that. So we must not give people the impression that the project has been scrapped. We know that there are things that are done that are more feasible than others in any project. Like you building a house, you have to go to an architect, he has to draw the plans. These are soft things that you will not see until you start digging the foundation with a backhoe. You have masons putting up blocks. There are things that you do when you go to the bank to get a loan to build a house. That is part of the project, but people do not see that. So when we sit and we negotiate with Domlec, who will be buying the power generated from the plant, people do not see that. But it doesn't mean that nothing is happening in the geothermal program. I want to assure the members of the opposition that that project is on track, and God willing, we will have power from the small geothermal plant, Madam Speaker, in short supply. So I want to reassure you that that program is on track and it will continue to be on track, Madam Speaker. That is it, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, there has been no promise that this government has made before that we have not fulfilled. Madam Speaker, we told the people when we went to the People's Republic of China, we told them about the pillar projects that we were going to do. The opposition, in typical opposition fashion and style, have said that we were bluffing the people, for want of a better word. We were not going to build anything. We didn't get any money from China. Madam Speaker, we saw that the West Coast Road was constructed. We saw that the stadium, Madam Speaker, the National Stadium was built. I mean, every single thing, the State House has been built. The hospital is continuing. Every single promise that we have made to the people of Dominica, we have fulfilled, and we will continue to fulfill. So I want to assure the members of this House, through you, Madam Speaker, that the Geothermal Development Program is on track, and the monies that have been spent here, Madam Speaker, is to get the company set up. We have to get the company, the Dominica Geothermal Development Company, is now set up, it is now staffed, it is now up and running, and the New Zealanders are helping us tremendously with the accomplishment of those goals, and we continue. Madam Speaker, while I'm on my feet, I also want to thank the international organizations like the UNDP and also people like the Samaritans, because UNDP gave us money for the Cash for Work program, and that have helped to, they teamed up with the NEP to help to provide some stipends in the aftermath of Hurricane Maria, and that came in very handy. We have the Samaritan people who are here helping us to rebuild some of the homes. We have the Israel Aid, we have IOM, all of these people, Madam Speaker, despite what the opposition is trying to paint this government as, in the international forum, people are still coming to our aid and our assistance because they believe in this government. Madam Speaker, how can you have a statesman, Madam Speaker, who goes into the international community and makes statements as Dominica is in the likes of dictatorships as Venezuela, Madam Speaker? How do you make a statement about your country, Madam Speaker? How do you sit with yourself and your conscience as a statesman, as a politician, as a future aspiring leader in this country and make those kinds of statements, Madam Speaker? I mean, come on, Madam Speaker. And there's no evidence of that, Madam Speaker. Absolutely no evidence of that. What has Venezuela done to us only but come to our assistance? Even in difficult times, we saw the Prime Minister, in answer to a question, for the fourth time in this House, Madam Speaker. Venezuela have forfeited millions of debts, Madam Speaker, owed to countries, to them, from countries all over the world. In our hard times, Venezuela have still come to our assistance. Venezuela have given us money to repair the petrocasas that they had given us, Madam Speaker. And we know that in the 5 communities, Lily Valley, Grand Bay, Stock Farm, Cassie Bruce, and Chance, Madam Speaker, we have money from the Venezuelans to rebuild those petrocasas, and they continue to assist us. So, politicians and members of this House, your statements are detrimental, one way or another, to the future development of the country. And you must know that you must not be reckless with your statements, because they hurt the country, Madam Speaker. We have to always try to get the best for our country. No matter on what side of the fence that we sit, we always have to try to get the best. And, Madam Speaker, when I hear members of this House, Madam Speaker, criticizing the assistance given to the private sector, Madam Speaker, but this government has always been in the business of assisting the private sector, Madam Speaker. We assist with church in their time of need because we understand the contribution that we church has made over those years and the amount of people that we church employed over those years, and that was applauded by the members of this House. So when we assist now First Domestic, because we understand the plight of the policyholders, we are a local company, local indigenous company, the only indigenous insurance company we have. We should be supporting that. And I expect when when the member for the Wesley constituency speak, that he will applaud that action, Madam Speaker. I know he will applaud. He's my very good friend. We chat on a regular basis, and you will not be falling out of sorts if you do that. Even if you defy the leader. Senator Baptist defied the leader last week. So stand up as a man, and support this measure. And we applaud this measure on behalf of the government, Madam Speaker. First Domestic needs the bailout. First Domestic deserve the bailout. And First Domestic have gotten the bailout, Madam Speaker, due to this government, Madam Speaker. I mean, what is new now, Madam Speaker? But in 1997, Madam Speaker, 98, Variety Foods got monies from the aid bank, Madam Speaker, under the Capital Venture Fund. Cardinal Airlines got money under the Capital Venture Fund. Northeast Quarries applied for money. No tax to apply. And I have the protection of the house this time. I have the protection of the house this time. And I want to say it legally correct this time. Although I have the protection of the house. So it's nothing new. Where governments have been in the business of helping companies all along, Madam Speaker, and we so rightly will continue to do, Madam Speaker, to help persons in need. And that is what we'll do, because we understand if we do not come to the assistance of our citizens, the detrimental effect it will have on the economy in general, Madam Speaker. So, in general, I want to say that, Madam Speaker, this supplementary appropriation, Madam Speaker, is timely. We have to support it after the devastation caused by Hurricane Maria. I mean, poor people are listening to us outside there, gentlemen. People in need are listening to us. There are still persons on the tarpaulin. There are still persons that we have to build houses for, Madam Speaker. There are still persons we have to reach out to due to the nature of the hurricane, Madam Speaker, all over the country. So when you speak, those of you who have not yet spoken, when you get up to speak, be statesmen. Be bigger than your party. Be bigger than the circumstance that you find yourself in now. Do like Senator Baptist. Defy the leader and support the measure before you.
Madam Speaker, I rise to make my contribution to the... How many of you spoke a while ago?
Just 1 minute. But every time you look at me, you look so... As if I almost get frightened. I'm afraid to look. Put a smile, I will look. Put a smile, I will look. I'm a happy person. I only look at smiles. Smiles. Frowns. If you smile, I'll look. You don't encourage me to look. After all. Please go ahead, please.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I rise to make my contribution to the supplementary estimates, totaling some $248,991,776.28. But of great significance, Madam Speaker, I must recognize the 86% of these funds, which are funds from the government of Dominica, or what we call local funds, totaling some $214,508,560, Madam Speaker, of local funds. Funds generated by the hard work of this Labour Party government to assist its people in time of distress, Madam Speaker. And Madam Speaker, I listened earlier to the leader of the opposition suggesting to our people that this is your money. It's a money government owed to you, and therefore they must give it to you. Madam Speaker, these funds have to be raised. Hard work came into effect in raising these funds. Madam Speaker, he mentioned that these funds came from the Citizenship by Investment Program. Madam Speaker, today we are being recognized that the Dominica Citizenship by Investment Program is the best in the world. And it did not just happen. It came, first of all, through the hard work of our leader, Prime Minister Roosevelt Skerrit, and all of the persons involved in one way or another, whether locally through the local office or all of the offices overseas, the agents who goes out and secure the funds for us so that we can have the funds needed to assist the people in this country. So when the opposition leader comes here and said to us that the funds, the $214 million local, $1 million locally, which government was able to attract and invested in its people within a 6-month period, doesn't mean nothing much. He doesn't know what he's talking about. Because I can assure you, a UWP government would not have been able to raise $214 million to spend within 6 months for the people of Dominica. They just do not have the capacity, they do not have the will, they do not have the drive. As a matter of fact, even in their local constituencies, they have not even demonstrated leadership. They have not demonstrated commitment to people. They have not demonstrated foresight. So therefore, they would not have been able to do that. And the member for Rosa South is acknowledging that what I'm saying is true, Madam Speaker. And so, Madam Speaker, the $34 billion of grant funding, which made a 40% contribution to this appropriation, we accept it. And we again thank all the organizations who came to the assistance of Dominica following Hurricane Maria, of which within the 6 months, this $44 million could have been invested in our people, and we thank them for it. But most importantly, Madam Speaker, we recognize the effort of this government to take care of its people in a tangible manner during difficult times, Madam Speaker. And that is why, Madam Speaker, the people of Dominica will continue to have the confidence in this government, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I listened attentively to the member, the senator from Casabros, and Senator Baptist, and he spoke of the $28 million which government paid to the public servants. And in his words, he was saying that it was an untimely payment. That's exactly what he meant in what he said. He's saying to this government that following Maria, when the entire country was devastated, the government in its wisdom and its financial capacity was able to make payments due to public servants to the tune of some 28 million, which they themselves reinjected into the economy, because they used it to repair their homes, they used it to pay their debts, some of them used it to secure loans, and it went back directly in the economy. And he considered a payment in November, following a disaster in September, as untimely to the people. These guys are just not in touch of reality. This was a timely payment, Mr. Speaker, to the public servants, and they welcome it handsomely, and they have invested it into the country, Mr. Speaker. So therefore, I do not understand why the senator would make such a mistake with himself and consider this payment untimely. That was a timely payment to a critical core of persons in this country, the public servants, who at this time were under distress following the destructions of all of their property by Maria, and it was just the right time to get that funds into their hands, which went back into the economy, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, under Head D40 for housing, which I am part of, there seems to be some difficulties with the purchase of some $17 million worth of material for the people of Dominica, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, following Maria, the few merchants who had, or hardwares who had a bit of material, they were sold out in quick time, because everybody was in a rush to repair their homes. As a matter of fact, they had money, they had at least $28 million in their hands to assist them in repairing their homes. Government had to take a decision. First of all, the capacity of our merchants to import materials, they are limited. They can only bring a certain amount of materials. As a matter of fact, by government moving to purchase this $17 million worth of material, it created an opportunity for even our local merchants, which they themselves could have purchased material, and they got space on the same boat, which was bringing in materials, the $17 million for us. And they were able to bring in $70 million US. They were able to bring in some materials themselves, because we were at a jam where there were no materials local available for purchase for the repairs of the home. So the government had to take a decision in quick time. And government used its wisdom, and we purchased 17 million US worth of material. Government further established 2 main distribution depots, one at Jimmet and one at Portsmouth, where we were able, or we have been able, to facilitate this distribution of timely material to every constituency, Mr. Speaker. Every constituency have benefited from the $17 million worth of material, and I can assure you it has assisted our citizens. Some of those who have got monies from the insurance, which was not enough, they needed that little step up of local materials, so they were able to pay their labor and they got some of the materials from the government, from the state, and they were able to rapidly cover a lot of their homes. That is why we can say right now at least 80% of the tarpaulins are gone. We never anticipated 100% would have been gone by now because of the magnitude of the disaster. So if the opposition thinks that all houses should have been covered, I mean they got it wrong, because we know that it's a process. It's going to take us a while to cover all of the houses and to get all of the persons who were affected by malaria back into their homes. It's going to take a process. It's going to take a while. It's not going to happen overnight, Mr. Speaker. And if this government within 6 months was able to contribute 248 million into the economy, and we still have not been able to cover all of the houses, it tells us the magnitude of the task we have at hand. And therefore, this $17 million, we expect another shipment to come in within a week or so. All of this material, plywood and whatever, all of that will again be given to the citizens of this country so that they will continue to cover their houses. And we are happy that the government is able to do that. And that is why I believe strongly, Mr. Speaker, Dominicans will continue to say, thank God it's Roosevelt Carey that is Prime Minister at this time. Thank God it's the Labour Party government that is in power at this time, because the Labour Party government is taking care of its people. The UWP seems to have difficulties with everything we are giving to the poor people of this country, Mr. Speaker. Anytime poor people is benefiting, the UWP have a difficulty with that. And that is not us. That is not the Dominican Labour Party. And that's why we are in power to fight these things, so that we can continue to help our people. Our people need help. The government is responding. Not everyone who deserves help has received it. That's natural. But the process continues. And all I can say to my Dominican people, stick to your government. Your government is there for you and will continue to help you. And over time, all of our persons will be back into the respective homes, whether it's through apartments. And while we're on that, Mr. Speaker, I want to go to the apartments that have been constructed. You need to come to Casabros for you to see the kind of construction that is going on. I took some pictures. I just sent it on the WhatsApp group last night. 8:30, cement is being pumped into the walls of this building going up in Casabros as we speak, to house some 66 families. So Brother Baptist did mention about some of the persons who lost their homes and the young persons who were renting, and the houses that they were renting got destroyed. We are catering for them. One of the good days, within a couple months, these young people who are renting these homes and had to go back to their parents' home because the houses got destroyed and they have nowhere to live. Within time, we will soon be giving them keys to apartment buildings, because the apartments are under construction, both in Casabros, in Chance, in Saint-Sauveur, you just in Grand Fond, in La Plaine, in River Syric, you just name it, in Viecas, these Granville, these buildings are under construction. And it's only a government with the financial will, with the foresight, with the ability that can say to 1,000 of its citizens, I will build you homes and put you in new homes in due time. The government is going to attract the funding to do that in this country at this time. It's the Dominican Labour Party. No other person can do that. And rest assured, the buildings are under construction, and eventually, by Casabros, by January, February, we should be able to give hand over the keys to the persons who are patiently waiting to move into their new apartment. It will lift up the ambience of the area, and we're really looking forward to this happening, Mr. Speaker. Additionally, Mr. Speaker, government has committed itself, apart from this apartment, to build 1,000 homes for its citizens, an additional 1,000 homes. Presently, there are over 50 going up in the Kalinago territory. In Point Michel, there are over 30 or whatever, which has already been constructed. And this program will go across the length and breadth of this country. Persons with their lots who have lost their homes in places that are safe, where the government has decided that homes can be built in this area, they will be assisted with new homes, whether it's 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom, or 3 bedrooms apartment, but the assistance of housing will continue. Mr. Speaker, some of us are charged with the responsibility and the hard work of rebuilding this country. There are others whose responsibility is to talk. So talk will continue to have. But those of us with the responsibility for rebuilding this country, we have to continue to remain focused, and we have to work hard and ensure that we deliver for our people, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I want to also recognize the team of Cuban carpenters and other skills persons who are here, Mr. Speaker, assisting us. I just went to the Dominica State College yesterday, and I saw the tremendous amount of work that they did at the college, which has allowed us to reopen college. Our students are at school with their government assistance. But of importance, in my personal constituency at Casares, we have 5 teams of Cubans assisting us with the rebuilding efforts, with the reconstruction efforts, particularly re-roofing. And they've done a wonderful job for us in Gurup. They've now moved to Sansouvé and Pilisoufuye with 1 team in Casares. Very soon we'll bring in an additional team as we close down Sansouvé, Pilisoufuye. We'll take them to Mopo and bring them down until the other teams will join those in Casares, and they will assist us in this rapid effort of re-roofing the homes, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, there are some persons out there who says nothing is happening in Casares, but these persons, they don't know what they're talking about and so on. They must come to Casares, visit Casares. Casares is the first place where construction projects started after Maria. Retaining walls, the Building Back Better process through the DVRP program. There are several walls in major key areas, projects which were there before Maria and had to be redesigned. And they are nearing completion in Casares as we speak, Mr. Speaker. With 130 apartments being built for our people. With all of the repairs programs that are going on in Casares, Mr. Speaker. But we will deal with these matters at the right time. This is not for now. But rest assured, Mr. Speaker, we are very excited about what is happening in the housing program, not only in Casares, but island-wide. And in my capacity as minister in the Ministry of Housing and Land, I want to reassure Dominicans. I want to congratulate those who have received so far, and I want to say to those who have not received, your government will assist you. But I just want to make an appeal to all the persons whom we have assisted with these new homes. Please take care of these properties, especially those who are in the apartments. Your neighbors are next door. So therefore, you must take care of the apartments given to you by your government. You must ensure that you maintain a clean environment. Planting of flowers in front of this apartment should not be a government responsibility. It should be the responsibility of the persons who are living in this apartment to make it look beautiful, Mr. Speaker. So I'm saying to all of my people here in Dominica, those of us who are benefiting from all of these millions that we are spending, your job, some of your only job, is to take care of it and to secure it and to make sure that it lasts, so that not only you benefit, but your children will benefit as well. Mr. Speaker, under the Ministry of Public Works, Head the 52, we see some $69 million being invested. Again, Mr. Speaker, $69 million within 6 months, rapidly being invested through the Ministry of Public Works. The dredging of the rivers. People can say what they want. I was one of those who were very worried driving into Roseau and seeing how close the silt and everything is to the bridge in Roseau. And I know if we had a disaster and this river is not properly dredged, with heavy rain, Roseau will have been flooded again. And I'm sure and I'm satisfied that our companies had not reached the stage where they could rapidly clear all of this debris from the river. We had to bring in outside assistance to help us in doing that, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, our people go out and work as well. There are persons from Dominica who get jobs in St. Lucia and St. Vincent and Trinidad all over. So there's absolutely nothing wrong in companies coming and work with us. These are the same people who responded rapidly after Maria, who took their boats, they brought in water, they brought in all what they can, and they just came to Dominica to assist us. If today that these persons are qualified for contracts, to assist us in dredging the rivers, particularly the rivers. We have to welcome that. And I'm satisfied of the job I saw being done, especially in the Rosa River, to clear all of this debris from the Rosa River. This was very timely, and I consider that money well spent. In my area, which is Castle's River, I have had to use local contractors, which did a very good job for me in clearing the Castle's River. But we are happy that we saw this massive dredging going on, and when we had this threat from Isaac, we knew we were not out of the blues, but our rivers would have been able to sustain a certain amount of heavy rain because a lot of the dredging had been completed, and then we felt much safer as a people and as a country. So we are very, very satisfied with that, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, under the same Ministry of Public Works, the cleanup, massive undertaking. All of us here, reps, we had to take charge of clearing our roads. My constituency is a very difficult constituency. Whenever it rains heavily, landslide like rain, for want of a better word. And then you could imagine the amount of landslides we had to clear between Castle's and Pinisufwe after Maria. And it's only because of the confidence that the operators have in this government. They knew that they would get paid. And we had this massive cleanup. Over 18 landslides on my roads. Took us over a month to clear this landslide to get to Pinisufwe properly, and so on. And so we were very happy that we were able to respond, and that the Ministry of Public Works has this confidence. So today, Mr. Speaker, whenever we know disasters are coming throughout the entire island, we have all of this equipment which are placed in strategic location, in Castle's, in Brantford, in Lampley, in Portsmouth, you name it, so that if we have a disaster, whether it's a tropical storm or hurricane, next morning, equipments are on the road, reps are on their feet, tying up their boots and so on, and we are there clearing up our roads, and we're taking our responsibility. We take our responsibility very seriously, Mr. Speaker, as reps. So I just want to say to the people of Dominica that this $248 million did not just appear. It's a result of our strong economy, because we have been able to position this country to fight the shocks of the global warming, and therefore when disasters strike, we can respond, first of all, on our own, we can help ourselves, and secondly, with the assistance of the international community. But only this Labour Party government can raise the kind of funds needed to move this country forward, can raise the kind of funds needed to assist this country when disasters strike, can raise the funds needed to make Dominica the best place to live. And we'll continue to do that as we go along, but rest assured, we are happy that in this time, from January to June, that the government was able to raise all of these funds to assist our people and to help in rebuilding this country post-Maria. And having said that, I really must say that I support what is before us now, and that we will continue to build this country. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Isaac saw me. Bernard Wisha saw me. Isaac saw me. Bernard Wisha saw me. Isaac saw me. So sharing against me.
Mr. Speaker, I won't be very long. I won't be asking for any more time today. Let me say, Mr. Speaker, that I rise to issue my contribution on the estimates that is before us. You don't want to go there, okay? Estimates that's before this House in the amounts of $249 approximately $1 million. Bearing in mind, Mr. Speaker, that previously we had an additional 86 million, so the total for year ending June 2018 was $335 million. It appears to be a large sum, but it is understandable, because after such a disaster in a country, one would expect that there would be overruns on the budget. However, Mr. Speaker, a number of things have caught my attention. This country promotes itself, Mr. Speaker, to be a country which intends to feed the world. We promote ourselves to be the country which intends to be leading in agriculture. And we also promote ourselves to be one of the countries where you would have world-class nature island tourism. These are the things that we are prying ourselves into. And as a result, these would be considered as part of our engine of growth, and it will be considered major revenue-generating streams for this country. However, Mr. Speaker, we have noticed that in this supplementary estimate for the 6 months, agriculture was totally ignored and left out. An industry that we are trying and we are hoping to lead into, and an industry, Mr. Speaker, that is relevant to this country and the economic activity in this country. In fact, Mr. Speaker, we only noticed that $46,000 was spent on tourism. And if we're speaking of activating specific sectors to help build the revenue of this country, I would tend to think that what the country would be doing would be to invest in the areas where we are going to produce, and people would have a better life, and people would start to become independent and have revenue for themselves. But, Mr. Speaker, obviously, this government seems to be bent on not allowing people to produce for themselves and not allowing the independence of individuals. But the farmers from West to Cassie Bruce to Delis to Mount Prosper and to Collyhoe will certainly take note of that. Mr. Speaker, it is obvious that as a country, we really should pump some money into agriculture. This is an industry, Mr. Speaker, that we are going to have to depend on, for the economic survival of Dominica, and not to rescue it after a major disaster like that is not helping anyone, and it is not very wise. However, Mr. Speaker, I believe that if we kill these two industries, we are killing our country, and I want to urge the government to pay some serious attention as we move forward towards the next 6 months, Mr. Speaker.
Help me understand. I mean, we're dealing with the supplementary estimates. That's money spent.
Yes, yes.
It's not the budget debate. And so to speak to investment in agriculture or tourism, I'm not sure how it is relevant to the debate. But help me understand that.
Mr. Speaker, I close my case on this matter. I'm certain all of Dominica have heard me. I move on. The item under the office of the President, Mr. Speaker, we have noticed that about $180,000 was spent for surveillance of an area of a white elephant, I believe, Mr. Speaker, that this $180,000 for year ending June of 2018 could be better spent at this stage. We have noticed in the Ministry of Justice, $7.7 million spent, $1 million of which went to vehicles for the police, something I support, because the police have been crying out for transportation and for help. We also noticed $3.3 million went towards the purchase of vehicles to assist immediately after the storm. Mr. Speaker, this may be well intended. However, Mr. Speaker, this government has been indicating that the country is moving forward and the country is getting out of what it's into. The question is, should we have rented the vehicles instead of purchasing $3.3 million worth of vehicles? The other thing, Mr. Speaker, now that we have reached at this stage, and now that the government is priding itself that it's recovering, what's happening to these vehicles that was purchased for that purpose, Mr. Speaker? It's no secret. You can't hide a vehicle. We are seeing the vehicles running all over the area, all over the country. Okay? But these vehicles, Mr. Speaker, if you notice, are being driven by friends and families. And Mr. Speaker, I stop there. I stop there, Mr. Speaker. But Mr. Speaker, it's important. Speaker, I notice you're listening to every word that I'm saying. But Mr. Speaker, it's important, Mr. Speaker, it's important because it is not fair when a nurse at 10 o'clock at night is on her way home. All right? And a vehicle with a government number plate is passing. That vehicle, Mr. Speaker, is being driven by friends of individuals. Okay? But, Mr. Speaker, those vehicles at this stage, now that we have reached, can I stretch your hand like that? Yep. Mr. Speaker, my point here is that at this stage, the country should look at the number of vehicles that they have purchased with the $3.3 million, establish where these vehicles could be best utilized at this present time, and move these vehicles to areas that are needed within the mechanics of this country. Okay? Because, Mr. Speaker, we know that they need vehicles for even more vehicles for the police. We know they need vehicles for the extension officers. We know they need vehicles for the nurses to take the nurses around the country. We know the Ministry of Health needs vehicles. The point is that it was purchased under this ministry. And at this stage that the country is moving forward, it is reasonable for us to analyze our inventory of vehicles and redeploy the vehicles to the areas that they are most needed. And if you think that that is not something that we should do, if you think it's not good advice, then leave them there and let us increase the cost to the country. But, Mr. Speaker, I believe this is what should happen. Mr. Speaker, $700,000 reflected being paid to Attorney at Law Gildon Richard for claim against his government.
Be careful that we're not going to be too repetitious. This has been dealt with by other persons who have been on the floor. I'm going to allow you, but don't be too repetitious on this.
Because, Mr. Speaker, it's in the supplementary, and one person can take a number of angles with it. I would wish I'd be allowed to do that myself. But, Mr. Speaker, Mr. Speaker, what is happening to the Office of the Attorney General? What about advice the Attorney General Office given to the country of Dominica? Why is ever so often we have to be coming onto this country? We have to be coming into this House of Assembly, Mr. Speaker, and we have to be seeing that the country has been sued and the country is faced with these expenses that taxpayers must carry at the end of the day, Mr. Speaker. But more so, Mr. Speaker, the issue here is that I researched this matter, and the Attorney General's office is not even aware, the ministry is not even aware that there's an appeal on this matter. Okay, no monies have been paid. There's an appeal on it, but it is in the supplementary. That's a problem, Mr. Speaker. And if we're saying, Mr. Speaker, that we cannot afford to let this thing get worse. We cannot afford, we must manage this thing. I notice you are bringing in attorneys from Trinidad now. But, I mean, was it worth the while? We must manage this. I think that we have capable persons within the Commonwealth of Dominica that can do the job to advise the government properly so the taxpayers of this country would not be burdened with these type of expenses at the end of the day, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, an amount of $2 million for emergency supplies under that ministry. I also noticed that the Ministry of Trade has a $4.3 million for the same purpose. And, of course, right after the storm, you had to move into purchasing of supplies because we have people that we must take care of. I have two concerns. One, from which entities where the supplies purchased. Because it is all the Madam Speaker, and some of the business people are crying out. They're crying out because items, one set of entities were the suppliers of these items. And that, Mr. Speaker, takes us back to what happened to the citizenry of the country. Because we also hearing people are saying that they have not received support from the state, although they had losses like everywhere else. And equitable distribution on both ends would have helped this situation, Mr. Speaker. Not that anybody is going to be against supporting persons, but if one set of persons are receiving the benefits of the expense of the state and other persons are not receiving, I think it is fair for them to complain. And that's what is happening. Mr. Speaker, we have seen after this monstrous storm, cleanup was absolutely necessary. Absolutely necessary. Dredging of our rivers was necessary. How it was done, they have to be seen. Because we had to do this to protect life and property. This was absolutely necessary. Okay? There was a $20.9 million for cleanup, $28.9 million for dredging. I want to place on record my appreciation and the appreciation of this side of the house to the heavy equipment operators and truckers who stormed the challenges and faced it head on. History will forever record their efforts and their commitment to country. My concerns, however, is having spent $20 million for cleanup exercise, our locals were the first responders, the first on the scene, the first rescuers, the first risk takers, the first engaged in salvaging items in this country, and now becoming the first beggars. I am calling on this government, to please, the heavy equipment owners and the truck owners that have not yet been paid, please find it within yourself to engage these people and ensure that these people get paid. Okay? Please ensure that the people get paid. Okay? Because I would hate to believe that we would be engaging foreign entities here like the Dominica Strong, and they're going to go through the same thing. I'm almost certain that they're not. Okay? But I am saying to the government, please, the Dominicans who have done that much for us, let us show some appreciation by ensuring that these people receive the payment for the work that they have done after Maria. And I really want to thank them and acknowledge them for all of the work that they have done within that time. I've noticed $5.3 million spent out of the BAM program on the road project. I raised some concerns at the last sitting of the House with respect to the seriousness of this government as it relates to the management and execution of this BAM program. I'm very concerned about it. In June of 2016, the government of Dominica and the European Union posted a billboard in the village of Wesley, confirming that Lot 2 of the BAM feeder road program would commence in June of 2016 and in July of 2017. Mark that would be before Hurricane Maria. The contractors listed there was Nationwide Mobile Concrete Suppliers Limited. Less than 20% of the work from June 2016 have been done on the Mangrove Gutter Constant Spring Road. As a matter of fact, they started work on that road and work stopped in the beginning of 2017. And the road is in a worse of condition today than it was prior to June of 2016. I'm appealing to this government to please pay some attention to the Mangrove Gutter Constant Spring Road. It is a feeder road that is serving the farmers in the entire area. You can move from one village to the next. It can also serve as a bypass in the event of any major disaster in any one of the villages, and the villages are cut off. So I'm asking and I'm begging that someone pay some attention to this Mango Gutter Constant Spring Road, because from June 2016, it was already in a bad state, because this is a road that was damaged from Maria. And in 2018, this road is worse than it was in 2016. And, I mean, with all fairness, it needs attention. I'm calling on this government to ensure that they pay some serious attention to this road, and that should be done swiftly. This BAM monies, Mr. Speaker, which I noticed according to the signboard, is being managed by the Ministry of Works and the Chief Technical Officer. I would like to ask the public servants to do what they're supposed to do. Do what they're supposed to do. Be respectful to the representatives of the various constituencies. The people have made the decision to elect all of the representatives, all 21. And it is not in their place to decide who should be the representatives. And I'm going to leave it there. If they refuse to acknowledge that, then we'd have to discuss it a little further. Under the Ministry of Housing, I would like to commend the WASCO. I noticed that they got $4 million. Mr. Speaker, you should be smiling. I want to commend the WASCO for the work that they did right after the storm. I'm impressed. Let me say the least. I'm impressed, okay? And more so, I know it was easier for them in the Westwood Foothill area, because the villagers there went ahead and they cleared the road to the intake before the WASCO got there. So we got water within time that the people appreciate. And I just want to put on record our appreciation for the work done by the WASCO. There may be some other utility companies that have done some work, but I only pick not the best. In the housing sector, under housing, I want to say that I am convinced that over $5 million worth of damage was experienced by every one of the 21 constituencies individually. I am satisfied. And I'm saying that if $88 million was spent there, I would then have expected that each constituency would have received a minimum of at least $4 million. That would be what is called equitable distribution of funds. But sadly, having spent $88 million, the villages of Wesley and Woodford have only received less than $1 million. And that is not coming across to me to be equitable distribution of funds. And I'm again appealing to this government. If it is that the amounts for West and Woodford have not yet reached the councils, please expedite the process so that it can reach the councils quickly, because there are still people in the area that are living with their neighbors, and those that are under tarpaulin, and those that are still wetting in their homes, and those that are still in the resource center. Although water was disconnected from the resource center, but I thank the WASCO that upon dialogue, the resource center was reconnected, because we have 2 elderly persons still in the center, in the resource center, seeking refuge. I've also made a request for additional housing support for about less than 100 persons in the community of Westwood, Foothill, and Palm Tree. And I'm hoping that this will be given some urgent attention very soon. But there's a specific case that I've continued to make representation on amidst those that are out. And that's the case of a gentleman in Wesley by the name of Roosevelt Williams. This gentleman is an amputee. This gentleman lost his roof during the storm. We have requested on a number of occasions to have this gentleman's house covered, and it is falling on deaf ear. No one seems to be paying attention to this gentleman. And I do not think that this is right. It cannot be right that the state has spent $88 million on housing, and an amputee, a gentleman who has served the state, cannot receive some support to simply cover his house. I want to also go further to say that prior to Hurricane Maria, 5 housing units for 5 needy families in the small farm area in Woodford Hill was promised to these people. A contractor was assigned, and blocks were sent up. And I'm saying before Maria, we have spent $88 million. But up to this stage, these 5 units for the people who, I mean, Mr. Speaker, we're talking about people who are in need. We're speaking about people who are in need. We're not speaking about people who want material because they have a house and the government giving material so should get to. We're talking about people who are in need. Some of them are disabled. 5 units before Hurricane Maria promised to these people in Woodford Hill, and up to today, the contractor is also challenged because he's assigned to build the houses. There are blocks there. The blocks are covered with grass. And the contractor cannot engage himself because he would hate to take another contract, and right after he takes the contract, they call on him to execute the one that he has with the government. So he's also handicapped. I am calling on the ministry, please, to look at these situations because these are matters where the people in the Commonwealth of Dominica are in need of help. Mr. Speaker, I'm hoping that the matters raised from this supplementary regarding the constituency of Wesley will be given some attention, and will be given some attention urgently. And I want to thank you, Mr. Speaker, for allowing me this.
I'm beginning.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I came in here today, Mr. Speaker, and I prayed before I got into Parliament today, and I said, not to this seat and not today. And I just relaxed today and ensure that we have a good session here representing the people, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, let me take the opportunity 1 year after Maria to sympathize with the people who lost loved ones during Maria. I know some of them are still suffering. Yes, just the 1 year anniversary, Mr. Speaker. People, some families are still haven't gotten closure in terms of their loved ones, burying them, getting the bodies and whatnot. And I think they're still just on this side of the house, just want to continue to tell them to be strong as they move forward. Mr. Speaker, we are here to debate on the supplementary appropriation of $249 million. And let me say, after a major storm like Maria, we must have spending, urgent spending on different issues, clearing up roads, ensuring victims get food and safe drinking water, and these things. So we understand the amount of money that had to be spent during that time, Mr. Speaker. But looking at the appropriation, and I was sat under the heading of the Ministry of Justice, $2 million for relief supplies. And Mr. Speaker, we heard the discussion around Dominica. As the Parliament of Salisbury, Mr. Speaker, we did the distribution through the Salisbury Disaster Management Committee and Cooley-Bistri Village Council to serve monitoring Cooley-Bistri. And we heard the discussion about the unfair distribution in some areas. We had our challenges in Salisbury, but we tried to keep it. As a PAL rep, I stayed away from it. And I ensured that no politics was involved. Nothing will work perfectly, but we ensured that we had a system that was working and going forward, Mr. Speaker. But the problem that we had, Mr. Speaker, we're hearing of food sent to the people of Dominica being dumped. And we have evidence of it. And that food, and we have people across the board, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable John,
yes?
I'm going to ask you to
yes,
remain focused on the matter before
yes, Mr.
supplementary estimates. Where in the supplementary estimates are we addressing?
Yes, we're talking about
food?
the distribution of how much money that was spent under the Ministry of Justice for relief supplies. So that's what we're talking about, Mr. Speaker. I'm just touching that point, Mr. Speaker, about the concerns that were raised. We are speaking about money that was spent, but we want to see going forward, there's equity, that transparency, accountability, the people who got affected, that supply reach them and reach them on time. And that is what I'm saying, Mr. Speaker. That is what I'm raising. And we'd like to see everybody who got affected. You're talking about 95% of your housing stock got affected, Mr. Speaker. People got affected, of the population. Thousands of people needed food on time, and we would like to see that happen where we had proper distribution. Mr. Speaker, under the Ministry of Trade, Mr. Speaker, we had
Order, please.
$4.4 million for relief supplies. $4.4 million for relief supplies, Mr. Speaker. And we, as citizens, expected that the money spent in terms of the different, the different communities, the different areas, get the support that they needed, Mr. Speaker. Under the Office of the Prime Minister, $9.5 million within that 6 months. Public support program, almost $10 million, Mr. Speaker. But recently, Mr. Speaker, in this Parliament, we created the Rapid Response Recovery Agency, Mr. Speaker. And all that money that was spent from the Prime Minister's office, we'd like to see going forward that these monies will be spent through the Rapid Response Recovery Agency and maybe the Welfare Division. And the Welfare Division is the arm of government where you find this type of resources should be spent. And to ensure that there's transparency, accountability, they have their support staff to ensure that these things are done properly, and the people who need, the case workers, the people who need the support, get the support and get it on time and get it properly, Mr. Speaker. And that is what we'd like to see, and we'd like to see going forward as well, that this, we hope that the money that is being spent in the Rapid Response Recovery Agency, that this money goes through the Consolidated Fund. And we're hearing, Mr. Speaker, I'm hearing there's a concern. The money that is being allocated right now is not going through the Treasury. And it is going through the Treasury. Let us see the report. It is not going through Consolidated Fund, Mr. Speaker. And I can attest to that, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, moving on to the next head in Ministry of Education. Repairs of schools. And I am happy that some of the schools, like the Payable School and other schools, got attended. But Mr. Speaker, let us go to the Salisbury constituency. There was a meeting with the Parents Teachers Association in June of 2018 to discuss the repairs and going forward and preparing for the new school year in September. Because from 2017 to 2018, the school year, the children adjusted. They went to school in tents, and some of them had to go home because when it's raining, the tents get soaked with water and everything, and they adjusted. The parents adjusted as well. But they wanted to see a move in the right direction for September. And Mr. Speaker, do you know that only in the third week of August that the Ministry of Education had a meeting with the parents of Salisbury? Is that right? For the opening of school in 2 weeks later. And now you have the situation where the Salisbury school children have to share 2 churches in Salisbury. And let me take the opportunity to thank the Christian Assembly Ministries of Pastor Lloyd Vidal and the Gospel Hall, Pastor Warrington Antoine, for making the buildings available to house the Salisbury school children temporarily. But the concern that we have, the community has, is the children, the area is not safe. That is the main exit from the village. So you have a high traffic running there on a daily basis. And you have the children in that area. So that is a concern that we have. In the interim, we are hearing that the Canadian government making funds available. We are in the Indian government making funds available. But we said that is down the road. But we're talking right now about in the interim, our children are at risk, learning conditions and whatnot. We're making the sacrifice. The church is making the sacrifice to ensure that they house the students. But what we are saying, we made recommendations since in June that there's the Bruno's Hall right there. The Bruno's Hall, they came there, they made the evaluation. But what we are saying, that the Bruno's Hall, the location of the Bruno's Hall, the playing field is right there. Let us work with the owner of the hall and make sure that we can house the students there for the next school year. I'm sure we might end up having them there for 2 years. But we cannot have the children go to school on that main road. And that, I just want to make that recommendation here in the House on behalf of the community, that we address that situation going forward. Let us see that is the best way we can have our children in a safe and conducive environment for learning, and that we can move in the right direction. And that is what we're asking. That is what we're asking. We come in there and make sound recommendation. Instead for the Minister of Education to take it, he's making noise in the House. How can we go forward? Mr. Speaker, Madam Speaker, sorry. During another concern we have with the arrangement, during the week, you have to make a lot of adjustments for church and for school. You have been having prayer meetings in the night, and they have to arrange the classrooms and then move the chairs at the back, and then this morning they have to rearrange them. So it's a challenge for the school and the church. So going forward, I just want us to see how, under the Ministry of Education can address this situation. Madam Speaker, under the Ministry of Housing, $87 million was spent in terms of assisting people around the island renovations, and we welcome that. We ensure that we would like to see how people get the type of support that they need, and urgently. But we still have some concerns. I think it can, there are a lot of, for example, as the MP for Salisbury, Coolbishop, Monrachet, I have sent request forms to the Ministry of Housing, and it's going on 3-4 months, and we have not heard anything from the ministry. I go there almost every week. I call and follow up. And you have, a year after Maria, there's some people who have not gotten the type of support they would like from the government in terms of addressing their housing needs. We would like to see that happen, and we would like to see that move in the right direction. We would like to see the fair distribution of building materials, no discrimination, transparency. We have some concerns in our constituency. And I would not like to repeat it. Everybody know the kind of stamp that is put on Salisbury. And we have to consider, these are the concerns that we have in the constituency, and we'd like to see IOM. Let me take the opportunity to thank the International Organization for Migration. They have done a wonderful job in our area. They have they are professionals. They do everything above board. They try to involve everybody, community leader, and I like to see that. And I am sure that Red Cross and all the others around the island who are making contributions, they work with the community leaders and ensure that we address the concerns of people who are more vulnerable and address and move in the right direction. Madam Speaker, I have a concern, and I heard the Minister of Education made mention of Bryson Louis. And I would like to really touch that particular concern. It's a concern that we all, as members of Parliament, should be aware of and how we can address this situation. Madam Speaker, somewhere in March, April, monies was made available across the island for people to do renovations, and these monies were sent to the village councils and in different areas. And Madam Speaker, there are some individuals who got everything, and there are some individuals who are trying to get theirs. And I will make mention of the former parliamentary representative of Salisbury, Mr. Bryson Louis, 93-year-old Mr. Bryson Louis. And I want us to take stock and understand what is going on there. Mr. Louis lives on his own, and his house was built maybe in 1969 or some upstairs and downstairs house. it got uncovered. Money was made available to him. We tried to get that money for him to recover the house and everything. And you know, these houses, they do not have, it's upstairs and downstairs, so it's wooden level, wooden floor. And when exposed to the elements, everything inside gets messed up. And made a recommendation on his behalf. I wrote to the Minister of Housing, and we didn't get any response. The PS asked me to write him, and I also I met the Minister in the Ministry of Housing, and he told me to send him some estimates, and we spoke about it. While discussing if nothing was done, I spoke to IOM. IOM do not cover big houses, but they made this exception and they covered the house of Mr. Louis. But $33,600 dollars was made available to him at the Kulbishu Village Council. And we have been trying to get him. I went on his behalf. He asked me to go get the money, gave me an order and his ID, and I went to get the money for him. You know what happened? My name was on the radio saying like I go for the money for myself, you know. Let us be real. I went there, I genuinely followed protocol. Imagine I called the Minister of Ecclesiastical Affairs. We spoke about it. She told me it's to the Ministry of Housing. I went for the money for the gentleman. He's waiting. He's 93 years old. The house just needs some repairs. But the order was made, but the money was made available to him, to the village council. And that is what we're asking. But I wrote to the PS. He hasn't responded to me. And that is one of the concerns, many concerns that we have. If monies were made available to individuals, it reached to the village council. Protocol, I don't have to go to the PS. I went to the village council where the money is made available to him. I went for it on his behalf. Somebody else can go for it on his behalf. They went for it and they didn't get it. What we are saying, if money is made available to somebody to repair their homes, a man, he served in the Parliament of Dominica.
Shame.
The Salisbury Declaration was held in Salisbury on the 29th of August, 1976. That's where our independence started. He was the host pal rep. He served from 1975 to 1979. And it's a problem to help the gentleman? No, the houses are not only covered, you know, the house is in a mess. It was covered by IOM, the house is in a mess. You know, the floor is, I tell you, it's timber, you know, the flooring is timber. So it was exposed to the element. And Mr. Speaker, that is what I'm saying. 6 months later, instead of trying to assist, some of us want to go and believe they can tarnish my name on the radio. No, it can happen. Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, Public Works. On the Public Works, BAM Feeder Road project. And that BAM Feeder Road project is recurring. And I am sure the PAL rep for St. Joseph, the Honorable Kelvedaro, will support me on this one as well. That the farm, yes, I'm sure of that, because that is the only access to the heights of St. Joseph is through the Salisbury Village, Salisbury Road, to Caricom. That is the only access right now. No go money is on its own below, by the Makushu area. But the only access, the Cuba Road got cut off during Maria. But we're having unnecessary delays. Since June of 2016, we're expecting that project to start and completion by the June of 2017. And up to now, it's delays upon delays upon delays. I just want us in here to be sensitive to the farmers in the Salisbury Heights area, the farmers in the Caricom area, the farmers from Corleo as far as Maho, who have Cainfield, who have farms in the Salisbury Caricom area, Salisbury Heights. You guys see them on a daily basis passing there and the struggles they're having to access their farms. There's a place they call Petit Makushwi, the hill in Petit Makushwi, because they reach somewhere in the Gaujean area. But the Petit Makushwi hill is dangerous and we'd like to see it addressed. I'm asking the Minister of Public Works, along with the Ministry of Agriculture, how can we work together to get that road completed? BAM project, it was on the BAM, the money was there for it, and still we are struggling. Madam Speaker, on the public works, I'm happy that they cleared some of the areas, the dredging going on in, that went on in Kulibi Street and some other areas. I just saw somebody said in the Bios area. But my biggest concern that I have, and I am sure that the Minister of Agriculture will support me, because every day he passes that area, the Makushwi area. In the Makushwi area, the Makushwi Bridge, the Makushwi bypass. Every time it drizzles right now, Makushwi is a problem, it's a headache. And let us put all the jokes aside and all the hate for the Paraposaurus, or he's always speaking about that area. Let us address the concern that we have in the Makushwi area. I am sure that the Parareps and the ministers going to the north of Makushwi, having from Korliho right down to the Vekas-Penville area, the Prime Minister have concerns when they cross in there. Why the delay? 3 years later, we are still talking about Makushwi, Madam Speaker. And I want us to address that area urgently. Layu is becoming a problem. Batali is a problem. And we have a new problem, a new one. They call it Bois Chadel on the Grand Savane area, next to the Antilles West Coast. And that area, Madam Speaker, in 1963-65, when they were building that road, they had a tin culvert. The time is ACO, they call it, the tin culvert. It got blocked recently during Maria, and then it undermined the road. No, during Erica. But recently, about a year ago, a project started there, building a wall by CCL, Caribbean Construction Limited. And I believe it's like they're building the Tower of Babel. A whole year they're building a wall. And right now, you know what happened during Isaac? The water was blocked from that drain and moved to the other side and undermining the road right now. So you have a serious problem there. I'm not a contractor, I am not an engineer, but simply I would have dug up that road, that area, and put 2 box culverts, 10 by 10, to allow the water to flow. And that's the problem we have. Water is not flowing, and it's undermining the area. That is the concern that we have right there, Madam Speaker. Money being spent, no bid contracts, and you're having that type of travesty going on on the platform area in the Grand Savane. And I'm sure the ministers and everybody passing there see that problem. It's a serious concern, and I'm hoping that we address that in the very near future, because we're going to have a serious problem there. Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I was, as the Power Rep for Agriculture constituency, I was looking forward to see the amount of money that was spent in the area of Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, 6 months. We're talking about feeding our people, short-term, long-term, medium-term crops. Madam Speaker, if you go to, there's a report, Madam Speaker, the Post-Disaster Needs Assessment, Hurricane Maria, 18th September 2017, and that report was done by the government of Dominica. And there's a table, Table 1, summary of damages, losses, and recovery needs by sector. And under the productive sector, Madam Speaker, agriculture was number 1. And they have, for damages, $149 million, losses, $336 million, and needs, $239 million. Madam Speaker, I raised this concern. I am not saying it was allocated for under the budget, but serious, if anything was allocated under the budget, but serious money was spent under every sector. And your number one productive sector, nothing was spent in agriculture. What are you telling the farmers who lost all their crops, their sheds, greenhouses, pig pens, fowl houses, inputs and farming tools, irrigation systems and others? You're saying within that 6 months, where we spend over $249 million, we don't spend anything in agriculture. Under the supplementary estimate. I just want to, there's no mention was made there, Madam Speaker, and that is the concern that I have. Our top productive sector, Madam Speaker, and I just wanted to bring that. I want us to show us where you spend the money in agriculture under this appropriation estimates in these areas. Agriculture, Madam Speaker, and that is a concern that I have, and I am sure that is a concern that the farmers in Dominica, despite all the noise you're making, I am sure there is a concern that our farmers would have. A serious concern. Madam Speaker, and before I sit end my presentation, I would like to take the opportunity, Madam Speaker, I missed on the education, to touch and to thank some of our people from Salisbury. I was raising the concern about the Salisbury Primary School, who made a meaningful contribution to the school recently. 3 barrels of school supplies to the Salisbury Primary School to assist our students, and every student got a backpack. Over 100 students, every student got a backpack of school supplies from, I must mention the name of Miss Neva Phillips George, somewhere in Texas, and Ella Lawrence in New York, collaborating and coming together and collecting supplies, and we want to thank the people who make the contribution to the Salisbury School children going forward. So I mean, that's on behalf of the entire community of Salisbury, thank them for their contribution. And Madam Speaker, with these few words, I'd like to end my contribution.
Madam Speaker, I move that the House be adjourned until 10 a.m. tomorrow.
Beg to second that, Madam Speaker.
I'm going to take the motion in a minute. I just want to advise that there's supper upstairs as per usual, so members can go and have some supper before they leave. And I'll put the motion now. It has been moved and seconded that this Honorable House be adjourned until 10 a.m. tomorrow morning. Those in favor? Those against? This Honorable House stands adjourned until tomorrow, Friday, the 20th. Is Friday? Tomorrow, Friday, the 21st of September 2019. 18. I'm in a hurry. Those in favor? Okay.